Chapter 4709. Speaking till here, a surprised expression appeared on the Maitreya Buddha's face. This was because Xiaohua's body didn't turn into nothingness like before, nor did it turn into a silhouette formed by dots and lines. The Maitreya Buddha stopped being surprised and looked at the Mahavairakana Buddha and the Dipankara archaic Buddha, no longer speaking. Amitabha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha wasn't particularly surprised. He chanted, Guanyin Banti, you aren't a Buddhist disciple of my Buddhism sect, and you didn't condense my golden Buddha body. Therefore, you can't manifest your golden Buddha body in the lotus bathing pond. However, you have already attained the Bodhisattva Buddha fruit. Logically speaking, you should cleanse your past life's dust in the lotus bathing pond. Xiaohua looked at the Maitreya Buddha again. The Maitreya Buddha nodded slightly, expressing his agreement. Amitabha. Xiaohua chanted and stepped into the lotus bathing pond. Gurgle. As Xiaohua's figure stepped into the lotus bathing pond, bubbles appeared on the jade water. Within the bubbles, billions of small chiliocosms were born, and they all rushed into Xiaohua's body. Rumble. The sound was like thunder. The power of faith was born from the void and poured into Xiaohua's body continuously. Moreover, the jade water within the lotus bathing pond also surged upwards and rushed into Xiaohua's body along with the power of faith. Looking at the back of Xiaohua's head, a radiance suddenly appeared. However, before the radiance could take form, it burst like a bubble in the jade water. However, the radiance didn't dissipate. Instead, it shrunk to the back of Xiaohua's head like a withered flower. Gurgle. The power of faith was still pouring into Xiaohua's body. The jade water of the lotus bathing pond was also flowing endlessly. Radiances appeared and disappeared one after another, as if there was no end to them. What's going on? Seeing the water of the lotus bathing pond slowly disappearing under the 81 huge Buddha lotuses, the Mahavairakana Buddha and the Dipankara archaic Buddha were shocked. This was something that had never happened in the Thunder Sound Temple before. On the other hand, a faint smile appeared on the Maitreya Buddha's face. No one understood Xiaohua better than him. If Xiaohua didn't use his mind to store the jade water of the lotus bathing pond into his space, he wouldn't believe it. However, the Maitreya Buddha had wrongly accused Xiaohua. Although Xiaohua did use some tricks to take the lotus pond into the space, there were also Buddhist disciples in his space. He had to prepare the lotus pond for them in advance. The Buddha's Buddha, Buddha's Buddhas, Buddha's Buddha's Buddha, Buddha's is Buddha Buddha, Buddha's 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 is Buddha 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 Buddha's Buddha Buddha Buddha. Buddha's Buddha Buddha Buddha's, Buddha 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 Buddha. Buddha's Buddha into the Buddha Buddha, the Buddha Buddha Buddha. Buddha Buddha, Buddha Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. What was special was that every time a ray of light was annihilated and fell into the crystal-like Godhead, the brightness of the star would increase, and the size of the Godhead would increase. The Godhead's brightness and size didn't change even once, giving Xiaohua an inexplicable feeling. This feeling was even more shocking than the collapse of the heavens and the earth. Within Xiaohua's space, the heavenly Tao Xiaohua and Karma Xiaohua had already taken form and surrounded the crystal-like Godhead. Not only did they comprehend this inexplicable feeling, they also firmly blocked the Godhead's changes. After an hour, Mahavairakana revered Buddha couldn't help but cough. Ahem, Namo Amitabha. Guanyin the Venerable, if you can't condense the golden body, you can just wash away all your mortal attachments. Not to mention the Mahavairakana revered one. Even the Maitreya Buddha revered one couldn't stand it anymore. He gently reminded Xiaohua in his heart to not be too ostentatious. Ahem. Xiaohua regained his senses and coughed awkwardly. He put his palms together and said, Amitabha, this disciple has too many mortal attachments. I can't wash them away in a short period of time. I've caused the revered one to worry. As he said that, Xiaohua's figure slowly flew out of the lotus washing pond. Boom. Countless Buddhist lights were emitted from the surface of Xiaohua's body and madly pierced into the void. Xiaohua's body also slowly expanded until it reached 99 feet tall. Below his feet, a 9-grade lotus platform also slowly bloomed, supporting his body. Namo Amitabha. Namo Dipankara archaic Buddha. Namo Maitreya Buddha. The three revered one chanted Buddhist names, and stepped onto the Thunder Sound Temple's Buddhist platform. Waves of Buddhist names were emitted, and countless layers of Buddhist lights rushed out like flames. However, they also stagnated in mid-air. Within the thunder sound temple's half-withered Buddhist lights, faint Buddhist lights seemed to be emitted, as if it was undergoing nirvanic rebirth. Senior apprentice brother, please. Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva smiled and gestured for Xiaohua to step onto the Buddhist platform. Xiaohua pondered for a while. The 9-grade lotus platform beneath his feet activated, and he stood within the Namo Great Compassion Great Guanyin Bodhisattva's projection. As Xiaohua's figure descended, tens of thousands of condensed Buddha's light rushed out from the Lane Temple and scattered all over the Nirvana world. Within each temple, the previously vacant position of the Nanwu Great Merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva gave birth to a female Buddha with a solemn and graceful demeanor, wearing a crown on her head and a heavenly robe on her body. This Bodhisattva's Buddhist avatar had crescent-shaped brows and star-like eyes. Her jade-like face was naturally joyful, and her vermilion lips were slightly red. The pure vase of sweet dew was in its prime, and it was slanted into a poplar tree. Her appearance was completely different from Xiaohua's original appearance. Seeing the unfamiliar Bodhisattva avatar appearing, the 3 Buddhist lords were stunned. However, a moment later, a rare look of gratitude appeared in the Mahavairakana revered Buddha's eyes. The Dipankara archaic Buddha revered Buddha's eyes suddenly came to a realization, while a smile appeared in the Maitreya Buddha revered Buddha's eyes. Namo Amitabha. Namo Dipankara archaic Buddha. Namo Maitreya. The 3 Buddhas of the past, present, and future put their palms together and chanted Buddhist names. Layers of Buddhist light and faith were added to the Buddhist light that covered the entire Nirvana world. Many thanks to Guanyin the Venerable. The voice of Mahavairakana, revered one, sounded in Xiaohua's ears. Xiaohua smiled. He knew that Mahavairakana revered one had accepted his apology and revealed the grudge of him offending Buddhism in Longevity Town. After all, only a small number of cultivators knew the truth of Xiaohua's attainment in the immortal town, and the true believers of the 3 continents didn't know the specific situation. They only knew that Guanyin Bodhisattva was born in Nirvana. Now that he had chosen a female Dharma form, not only did it resemble the Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva of Nanwu in the hearts of the mortals, but it had also completely separated the image of the Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva from his own Taoist image. If a cultivator did not know the truth, it would be impossible to associate the Mahayana of Taoism with the 4 great bodhisattvas of Buddhism. In this way, he could take care of the Lane Temple's reputation, and also let Mahavairakana revered one have a decent explanation in front of the world. Of course, whether or not the golden Buddha statue of Nanwu Great Merciful Great Guanyin Bodhisattva in Longevity Town could be altered was not something that Xiaohua could control. Many people in Longevity Town had seen Xiaohua's appearance. Amitabha Buddha, Amitabha Buddha, Amitabha Buddha. In the Lane Temple, thousands of Buddhas chanted, the heavenly dragons and fairies added to the fun, and the heavenly flowers scattered everywhere. After the time of half a cup of tea, the vision of Guanyin Bodhisattva sitting down gradually disappeared. Mahavairakana revered one opened his mouth and said, "Disciples, today's preaching has ended. I have something to discuss with Guanyin the Venerable. You all can leave now." Amitabha Buddha, we will obey the Buddha's decree. The group of Buddhas bowed and slowly disappeared into the void, leaving the Lane Temple. Seeing this, Nanwu Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva also put his palms together and said, "Revered one, disciple will leave now." "Go." Mahavairakana revered one nodded lightly. After Manjushri Bodhisattva left, Mahavairakana revered one's gaze landed on the faintly recovering Buddha light, and a look of realization appeared on his face. Nanwu Dipankara archaic Buddha. Dipankara archaic Buddha, revered one chanted and asked softly, "I thank Guanyin the Venerable." "I dare not." Xiaohua hurriedly returned the greeting. "The Longevity Town's mistake wasn't my intention. However, it was an unintentional mistake, and I have to make up for it. Since I can't enter the Buddhism sect, I can only use Guanyin the Venerable's Dharma idol to replace my original form." Namo Maitreya Buddha. Mahavairakana revered one chanted, "Mortals can only see the Dharma idol. You have already made up for your previous mistake." Dipankara archaic Buddha revered one smiled and said, You didn't come here just to make up for your mistake, right? To be able to invite Mahavairakana revered one here, it must be something extremely important. That's right. Xiaohua didn't hide anything and answered. I came to the Thunder Sound Temple because I have 3 extremely important matters to ask Mahavairakana revered one. Oh, what are the important matters? Dipankara Archaic Buddha revered one asked curiously. Whatever Mahavairakana revered one knows, I know as well. Why didn't you say it during the Jade Pool Conclave? Why did you wait until now? That was that day, and today is today. Perhaps tomorrow, I will still have 3 other questions to ask Mahavairakana revered one. Xiaohua answered with a smile. Mahavairakana revered one retracted his gaze from the extinguished Buddha light and looked straight at Xiaohua, saying, Venerable, before you ask me 3 questions, can I ask you 2 questions? Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat, and he forced a smile saying, Amitabha revered one, please speak. However, this disciple cannot guarantee that this disciple will be able to give you a satisfactory answer to your question. If you can, that's for the best. If you can't, it's fine too. Mahavairakana revered one answered calmly. Who can say that they know everything in this world? Even immortal Emperor Gochen's clear heavenly mirror, and my heavenly eye connection can't see through the hidden immortal continent and the pure land of ultimate bliss. Then revered one, please speak. Xiaohua nodded. My first question is, Mahavairakana revered one raised his hand and pointed at the half-withered Buddha light of the Thunder Sound Temple, asking, why did my withered Buddha light show signs of rebirth when Guanyin descended upon my Thunder Sound Temple? Then, let's fight. Give it a recommendation vote, collect it, and give it as thanks for all your support. Chapter 47:10. Xiaohua raised his eyebrows. He didn't directly answer Mahavairakana's question, but instead asked, Amitabha revered one, this happens to be my first question. I want to know why you didn't have time to stop Ananda from killing Yuan Tongtian. Why was there a vision of half of the light of Buddha annihilated? If revered one can understand, maybe I can answer your question. The Mahavairakana revered one smiled and raised his finger. All sorts of profundities were born from his index finger. These profundities transformed into boundless Buddha kingdoms and heavenly flowers, which flew towards the Thunder Sound Temple. Layers of marvelous karmic light threads flew out from the gaps between the Buddha fruits and heavenly flowers, sealing off the entire space. Xiaohua was startled. He suddenly stood up with lightning flickering around his body. He said coldly, Mahavairakana, what's the meaning of this? I came here with sincerity. Could it be that you want to fight with me in the Thunder Sound Temple? Do you think you and Dipankara can defeat me and the Mahavairakana revered one? Amitabha. The Dipankara revered Buddha didn't find Xiaohua's vigilance strange at all. He smiled and said, Don't worry, revered one. Didn't the Mahavairakana revered one tell you the cause of this matter before you came to the Thunder Sound Temple? What did he say? Xiaohua was stunned and turned to look at the Mahavairakana revered one. As expected, the Mahavairakana revered one wasn't as vigilant as him. Instead, he was standing there with a smile. Xiaohua was a little dazed, a little confused, and a little enlightened. However, there was more surprise in his eyes. Even his figure flew away from the Mahavairakana revered one. Namo Mahavairakana revered one. The Mahavairakana revered one was laughing in his heart. However, he said with a serious expression, Don't worry, revered one Guanyin. There's something fishy about this. However, this fishy, without the Mahavairakana revered one's permission, I can't reveal it. Because this fishy might shake the foundation of Buddhism. Ah? Xiaohua was shocked. He said anxiously, How? How is this possible? Buddhism is facing such a crisis? This Xiao. Why can't this Xiao see it? Avalokiteshvara isn't a Buddhist disciple. Of course, you wouldn't know much about our Buddhist cultivation. That's nothing. The Mahavairakana Buddha revered Buddha spoke. His withered body became even more shriveled. Let alone you. Even the Dipankara archaic Buddha revered Buddha didn't know much about this. Hiss. Xiaohua sucked in a breath of cold air and exclaimed, Revered one of the world, could it be? Yuan Tongtian, the 6-eared macaque. And even more? Are there more secrets that this disciple doesn't know? I have already told you clearly about the karma between the two of them. This matter has nothing to do with them. Of course, it's not absolute that it has nothing to do with them. Their karma can be considered as the last straw that broke the camel's back. Mahavairocana, revered Buddha, said faintly. Suddenly he asked, by the way, Guanyin the Venerable, you were born in Tao sect. Do you think it is better to have karma or to avoid karma? Even though he didn't know why Mahavairocana asked such a question, Xiaohua still answered without hesitation. My Tao sect cultivates to cut off all desires and desires, to stay away from the mortal world, to not be tainted by even a drop of karma. That's right. Only by being untainted by the slightest bit of karma can one be free and unfettered in the 9 heavens. Only then can one surpass the 3 realms and transcend the 5 elements. The Mahavairocana, revered Buddha, nodded. This is the cultivation method of your Tao sect, but it is different from my Buddhist sect. Disciple has also followed Maitreya Buddha and cultivated some dharma. Xiaohua frowned and said, but disciple feels that the Buddhist sect similarly renounces sexual desires and stays away from the mortal world. And it's even to the extent that it's even superior to the Tao sect in these aspects. Although my Buddhism sect can't be compared to your Tao sect with the so-called 3,000 great ways, Mahavairocana explained, my Buddhism sect has a lot of cultivation methods. Otherwise, there wouldn't be the 10 sects of Buddhism. Otherwise, there wouldn't be the Mahavairocana, revered Buddha, who betrayed the Lain Temple and established the Shaolin Long Temple. At this moment, Xiaohua had already somewhat understood that the Mahavairocana, revered Buddha, betrayed the Lain Temple not purely because of Yuan Tongtian's death, but more because of some schemes between him and the Mahavairocana, revered Buddha. Therefore, he didn't ask much and just listened quietly. He understood that the Mahavairocana, revered Buddha, now had a request for him. So the Mahavairocana, revered Buddha, would definitely tell him everything he could. Sure enough, the Mahavairocana, revered Buddha, said again. However, although my Buddhism sect cultivates a lot of cultivation methods, the root of it is the power of faith. But where does the power of faith come from? Naturally, it's from the believers of the Buddhism sect. Then how can we make the believers believe in us? Then we have to accept the believers' karma and accept the believers' pleas and prayers. Doesn't Guanyin the Venerable have Shao country? If the Venerable doesn't protect those people in Shao country and doesn't give them a way to live, will they worship the Venerable statue? Will they offer the precious power of faith to the Venerable? Although the power of faith is the source of my Buddhism sect's enlightenment, every trace of power of faith has thousands of karma. You have obtained the faith, so you have to accept the karma. Similarly, my Buddhism sect also has thousands of methods to make use of the power of karma. Actually, the so-called power of mountains, power of sound, power of stars, power of karma, and even power of space in the Buddhist seal are all karma. But, Guanyin the Venerable, do you know how heavy a trace of karma is? Xiaohua was stunned. He looked at the Mahavairocana, revered Buddha. The Mahavairocana, revered Buddha, also had his eyes closed, as if he was listening to the teachings without any expression. Xiaohua's heart moved, and he understood tacitly. As light as a feather, as heavy as a mountain. Guanyin the Venerable is indeed one of the 4 great bodhisattvas of my Buddhism sect. These words are extremely wise. The Mahavairocana, revered Buddha, praised. If there is a great wish and supernatural power, then the karma is a feather, but if it can't be born, then it is a mountain. No matter if it's a feather or a mountain, in short, the karma that has to be born has weight. My Buddhism sect's Buddha Lord, Bodhisattva, and other Buddhas who have attained fruition all have a Buddha kingdom on their golden bodies. This is the moment when the Buddhas stepped into the lotus cleansing pond. It has already condensed. Hearing this, Xiaohua's expression suddenly changed. The Mahavairocana, revered Buddha, hurriedly explained, don't be anxious, Venerable. Even if you're inferior to the lotus cleansing pond, the karma has already been attached to you, and the Buddha kingdom will definitely be born on your golden body. The lotus cleansing pond only cleanses the unrelated karma, allowing the Buddha kingdom to be born on your golden body in an orderly manner. Revered Buddha, Xiaohua said helplessly, what you said. Is it true? Don't lie to your disciple. Amitabha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha, revered Buddha, didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, Guanyin Venerable, the revered Buddha's heart is the entire Buddha kingdom. Although you're a Taoism Mahayana and have always been hostile to my Buddhism sect, in the eyes of the revered Buddha, all creatures are equal. Now that you've attained fruition, you're a Buddhism disciple. When the revered Buddha heard this, he also clapped his hands and praised you at the Thundersound Temple. All right. Xiaohua waved his hand and said with a smile, this disciple has been miserably schemed against by others, so I have to be careful all the time. Please don't blame me, revered Buddha. The Immortal Emperor and the Dragon Island's elders are all meticulous people. They bear heavy responsibilities, so naturally, they have to consider more. The Mahavairakana revered Buddha smiled and said, actually sometimes I can't help myself. Forget it, let's continue. Since the Buddhas who have attained fruition bear the Buddha kingdom on their golden bodies, then the power of karma within the Buddha kingdom is the Buddha's Buddhism power. However, since there is karma, the Buddha kingdom also has weight. The more karma within the Buddha kingdom, the greater the weight. If the weight of the Buddha kingdom exceeds the limit that the Buddhas can bear, the Buddha's golden bodies will be in danger of collapsing. This disciple somewhat understands. Xiaohua was somewhat enlightened and nodded, saying, previously, this disciple felt that the Buddhist sect's cultivation of Buddhism, the ability to condense relics, the 9 transformations golden bodies, and the ability to interfere with reincarnation was very mysterious. However, from the perspective of the Tao of Karma, all of this is within the Tao of Karma. Whether it is the previous life, the current life, or the next life, all can be seen from the river of karma. After that, Xiaohua explained his own understanding. Moreover, he had already faintly sensed what the Mahavairakana revered Buddha wanted to say. Sure enough, the Mahavairakana revered Buddha nodded and said, revered Buddha is right, but the Tao of Karma and the Tao of reincarnation are still different. My Buddhist sect's cultivation is definitely not as simple as you think. Even this revered Buddha doesn't dare to say that this revered Buddha is well versed in the various techniques of my Buddhist sect. How is that possible? Xiaohua asked curiously. The revered Buddha is the leader of the Buddhist sect. How can you and I know the secrets of the Buddha kingdom now? The Mahavairakana revered Buddha said very mysteriously. Xiaohua understood. It seemed that although the Mahavairakana revered Buddha was a doppelganger of the 9 transformations, since he fell into the realm of the 4 great continents, not only were his abilities restricted, even his cognition was also compressed. This Mahavairakana revered Buddha was not the complete Mahavairakana revered Buddha. Seeing that Xiaohua was silent, the Mahavairakana revered Buddha said again, my Buddhist sect's Arhat can borrow the power of karma to interfere with karma and reincarnation, but just like your Tao sect's cultivators casting spells, there will be a backlash force. When this force is added to the Buddha statue's golden body, it will increase the weight of karma and the weight of the Buddha kingdom. That day, this revered Buddha imprisoned Yuan Tongtian, and already interfered with Yuan Tongtian's karma. And Yuan Tongtian was killed by Ananda, which intensified this karma. This karma even involves revered Buddha. Therefore, this revered Buddha's golden body actually collapsed in an instant. How is this possible? Xiaohua was even more shocked. He looked at the Mahavairakana revered Buddha in disbelief and asked curiously, revered Buddha, how much karma can your golden body bear? Revered Buddha, don't you know? Yes, this revered Buddha was also abnormally shocked at that time. The Mahavairakana revered Buddha nodded and said, this revered Buddha controls the Buddhist sect in the Elysium, so naturally, I can bear the karma of the entire Elysium. How could there be signs of my golden body collapsing? Therefore, the moment this revered Buddha's golden body collapsed, this revered Buddha immediately calculated karma. Until now, this revered Buddha was alarmed to discover that the karma of the Elysium has already changed a lot. The weight of the karma of the 3 continents has already surpassed the karma of this revered Buddha's golden body. Chapter 47:11. Who? Xiaohua asked without hesitation. Then he asked in surprise, revered one of the world, are you suspecting me? Although the 3 continents are huge, And the believers in the Pure Land world are like ants. I can see the karma of everyone. The Mahavairakana revered one did not answer. Instead, he continued. Even the elders of the dragon race, the great sage of the great sage hall, the immortal emperor of the immortal palace, and even the masters of the stars and moons. Of course, this is only karma and nothing else. Revered one of the world is too powerful. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. You can even peek at Fairy Xingyu. The Mahavairakana revered one shook his head slightly. Revered one is wrong. I'm not peeking. Anything that involves my Buddhism will have karma. I only see the karma. I'm just joking. Please don't mind me, revered one of the world. Xiaohua hurriedly smiled and said, Who do you think it is? However, ever since the birth of the primordial chaos ancestor, and the failure of Guanyin's longevity stabilizing fruit, I suddenly realized that there's some unknown power in the karma flow. I've searched the 3 continents, and there's actually someone who can't see through karma. The Mahavairakana revered one continued. Revered one is one, Maitreya Buddha is one, Yuan Tongtian is one, Chuanzong is one, Ananda is one, Devouring Heaven is one, Namo Mahavati is one, Samantabhadra is one, Thunder Deity is one, Heaven-defying Thunder Phoenix is one, Literature Stream Palace Master is one, and there are even many Fortune Gate disciples. What? Namo Mahavati Buddha? Xiaohua was even more shocked and almost shouted. He has nothing to do with me. The Dipankara archaic Buddha revered one smiled and said, Revered one, please listen to the revered one's explanation. There are many secrets behind this. Yes, disciple understands. Xiaohua hurriedly pressed his palms together. The karma of the 3 continents can't be interfered with outside of the 3 continents. It can only be changed by being in the karma flow of the 3 continents. The Mahavairakana revered one continued. The 3 continents don't have any spatial passageways connecting them to the outside world. Thus, if one wants to appear out of thin air, one can only enter the 3 continents by accident or through the golden body. Fairy Xingyu? Xiaohua asked Xiaohua. Or the revered one's birth in the 3 continents after Fairy Xingyu? She is one of the karma of the 3 great continents? When the Mahavairakana revered one heard this, he smiled but did not reply. He only said, Ever since the Venerable One appeared in Longevity Town, our Buddhist kingdom has given birth to Namo Great Wisdom Manjushri, Namo Great Wisdom Samantabhadra, Namo Great Merciful Samantabhadra, and even Maitreya Buddha. On the surface, the Buddhism sect's glory is unparalleled, and it's in a state of great prosperity. However, I know in my heart that there are more and more things that I can't see through. There are bound to be changes in the Buddhist nation. It's just that this change came too quickly, and I was truly caught unprepared. All right. Xiaohua looked at Maitreya Buddha of the World-Honored One, and then said calmly to Mahavairakana of the World-Honored One, I presume that the Honored One already knows about what happened when the sutra-seeking extreme bliss ended. Chuanzong, Yuan Tongtian, Six-Eared Macaque, and Bodhi were all brought here by me from Dawn Rain Continent. Their karma will be borne by me. Those Fortune Gate disciples. Naturally, they were also disciples' karma. That Namo Great Wisdom Samantabhadra, Heaven-defying Lightning Phoenix, and the Scholar Palace's master, I don't know. As for the karma change that Honored One mentioned, it might be my doing. After all, I'm also a Taoist Grand Ascension Stage cultivator, and I also know the art of divination. I might be able to affect Honored One's karma. Amitba, excellent, excellent. Mahavairakana of the World-Honored One chanted Buddhist mantras happily. I'm very happy that Honored One is honest with me. However, your karma is yours, and my karma is mine. Although you're a Taoist Grand Ascension Stage cultivator, you're not strong enough to change the karma of my Buddhism sect. Phoenix Sage? The Scholar Palace's master? Namo Great Wisdom Samantabhadra? Xiaohua frowned. It seems like they're the most suspicious. Not necessarily. Mahavairakana of the World-Honored One shook his head. Ananda, Chuanzong Devouring Heaven, the Scholar Palace's master, Phoenix Sage, and the Fortune Gate's disciples. Their karma is unclear, and they aren't strong enough to change the karma, especially when I'm not aware of it. Who is it? Xiaohua felt that it was difficult for him to make up a lie when facing the Mahavairocana of the world-honored one who could see through the karma of the 3 continents. I don't know who it is. Mahavairocana of the world-honored one still shook his head, but he immediately said with certainty, however, I know that the person who changed the karma must be from the sacred light world. I'm going to faint. Xiaohua face-bombed. Why is there another sacred light world? What kind of world is the sacred light world? Didn't you say that the 3 continents have no passageways to other worlds? Honored one, you don't know about the sacred light world? The Dipankara archaic Buddha stared at Xiaohua in disbelief. Xiaohua nodded. I really don't know. I'm only from the Donrang continent. As for the Donrang continent, forget it, I'll wait for you to finish before explaining. The sacred light world is a higher world, and it's the archenemy of my Buddha kingdom, Mahavairocana of the world-honored one explained. The sacred light world's cultivation method is similar to my Buddha kingdom's. They both use faith as the foundation and karma as the means. However, their karma is a little different. All their causes come from the Holy Father, all their effects come from the Holy Son, and all their karma comes from the Holy Spirit. The Holy Father, the Holy Son, and the Holy Spirit. The 3 of them are the ruler of the sacred light world. Under the 3 holy saints, there are angels and apostles, holy temples, saintesses, holy artifacts, and so on. Angels are divided into preaching, dispelling, and fighting. There's a saying of 3 levels and 9 ranks. The upper 3 levels are the holy angels, which are blazing angels, wisdom angels, and throne angels. The middle 3 levels are the holy sons, which are master angels, strength angels, and energy angels. The lower 3 levels are the holy spirits, which are angels of authority, archangels, and angels. The Mahavairocana of the world-honored one didn't describe much about the sacred light world, nor did he explain it in detail. However, Xiaohua frowned even more. He didn't expect that other than Taoism, Confucianism, Buddhism, the demon race, and the dragon race, there was another sacred light world whose strength was comparable to the Buddha kingdom. Of course, it only lasted for a moment. Xiaohua couldn't help but laugh. Since there was the Red Ocean domain where the Rainbow Sea God seashell came from, and the 10,000 demon domain where Little White came from, why couldn't there be another sacred light world? After all, there were too many realms in this world, and there were even many lost realms. I thought that the cultivation method of the Holy Light realm was similar to that of the Buddhist sect. They both relied on faith. Therefore, the Holy Light realm and the Buddhist kingdom were mortal enemies. The 2 realms were constantly at war. Mercy appeared on Mahavairocana's face. And this war is actually not what the Buddha Lord and the Saint Ruler wanted. It's only because of their different beliefs and beliefs. Xiaohua rubbed his nose and said with a bitter smile. In that case, the revered one of the world suspects that there are angels from the Holy Light realm who use the Buddhist kingdom's passageway to infiltrate the 3 continents. Indeed, the Mahavairocana revered Buddha nodded. Because whether it is the Arhat of the Buddhist sect borrowing the Holy Light of the Holy Light world, or the angels of the Holy Light world borrowing the Holy Light of the Buddhist kingdom, they can perfectly conceal themselves and not be easily discovered by others. Furthermore, due to the war between the Holy Light realm and the Buddhist kingdom, many Buddhist and Holy Light passageways were affected. Our Lane Temple still hasn't received any news from the Buddhist kingdom for a long time. It's very likely that the Holy Light realm is using this opportunity to send angels to infiltrate our Lane Temple. In that case, the Mahavairocana revered Buddha is also suspicious. Xiaohua looked at the Mahavairocana revered Buddha with a smile. But why does the revered Buddha trust him so much? The Dipankara archaic Buddha, the Mahavairocana revered Buddha, and the Mahavairocana revered Buddha. These 3 great Buddha lords are the foundation of the Buddhist sect. The Holy Light realm's Saint Father, Saint Child, and Saint Spirit are also the same. No one else can replace them. Moreover, if any angel is willing to be born as the Mahavairocana revered Buddha, I will also welcome him. Because once he becomes the Mahavairocana revered Buddha, then he will be the Mahavairocana revered Buddha. He will be a disciple of the Buddhist sect, not an angel of the Holy Light realm. I don't understand. Xiaohua shook his head and said. If the revered Buddha suspects the Namo Mahavati, why don't you directly interrogate him? Interrogation is a small path. The Mahavairakana revered Buddha opened his eyes and smiled, inviting him into the trap and taking advantage of the situation is the great path. Isn't it just an unbroken path? You don't have to make it sound so dignified. Xiao Hua felt ashamed to be associated with him. However, after a while, Xiao Hua came to his senses again and asked in confusion, "But if it's just based on this guess, it's impossible for the revered Buddha to determine that the Namo Mahavati, Samantabhadra, is an angel, right? If the Mahavairakana revered Buddha didn't descend, of course, I can only guess." The Mahavairakana revered Buddha smiled and said, "However, when the Namo Mahavati, Samantabhadra, descended to the Thunder Sound Temple, he made a great vow to search for the Mahavairakana revered Buddha. What if this Mahavairakana revered Buddha is the reincarnation of a blazing angel?" Xiao Hua sucked in a breath of cold air. He finally understood the Mahavairakana revered Buddha's scheme. The revered Buddha is preparing to use the Mahavairakana revered Buddha as bait. Then Xiao Hua looked at the Mahavairakana revered Buddha and said in shock, "You actually agreed? When Yuan Tongtian was killed by Ananda, I was in seclusion. Thus I didn't stop this tragedy." The Mahavairakana revered Buddha nodded. "And when I was awakened by Yuan Tongtian's karma, it was already too late. At that time, I was extremely indignant. However, when I saw the revered Buddha's Buddhist kingdom collapsing, I immediately felt that something was wrong. At the same time, the revered Buddha hurriedly transmitted his voice to me and told me his suspicions. I didn't come from the sacred light realm. Naturally, I'm magnanimous and not afraid of temptation. The revered Buddha's plan was no small matter. I also thought about it for a moment. However, as the Mahavairakana revered Buddha, I naturally had to think about the future of the Buddhist kingdom. Thus, I took the opportunity to rebel against the Lane Temple. Of course, I also gained a lot when I was meditating. These gains were different from what the revered Buddha said. I also want to take this opportunity to spread it. Cast a monthly vote, cast a recommendation vote, collect a collection, reward, and thank you for all forms of support." Chapter 47:12. Damn it! You two Buddha lords have fooled everyone in the world. Xiao Hua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Ba, you're wrong. It's the holy light world that has fooled us. The Dipankara archaic Buddha said bitterly. If it weren't for the emergence of the other shore and the collapse of the world lord's golden body, I wouldn't have thought that the holy light world would be sealed off by the 3 continents. Hearing about the other shore, Xiao Hua opened his mouth. He wanted to say something, but he hesitated. Instead, he asked the Maitreya Buddha in his heart. After a while he frowned and said, "Dipankara archaic Buddha, I'd like to ask, what is the other shore?" "The other shore is the holy light world's sacred artifact," the Dipankara archaic Buddha answered. "From the perspective of mortals, this sacred artifact can open a rainbow bridge that crosses the sea of bitterness and leads to the other shore of nirvana." Xiao Hua rubbed his nose and said, "Why does this other shore sound like a Buddhist artifact?" The Buddha fruit's Buddhist artifact is similar to the holy light world's sacred artifact, the Dipankara archaic Buddha answered. "If it weren't for us Buddha lords, the other Buddhas wouldn't be able to tell the difference." When the other shore appeared, the Immortal Palace and the Thunder Temple were in a terrible state. The 100 schools of thought instigated the Immortal Palace to wage war against the Thunder Temple. Many guardian heavenly kings who didn't know the truth also headed to the buried immortal continent to protect us. When the holy light world's sacred artifact appeared, the immortal emperor and I were both shocked. However, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva was also listening to the Thunder Temple's lecture at that time. This matter had nothing to do with him. The Maitreya Buddha continued, "However, because of this, I'm even more afraid that the holy light world is still hidden in the 3 continents." Cough cough. Xiao Hua coughed and said, "You don't have to test it anymore. The other shore is with me. Do you need me to take it out?" Boom. In an instant, the entire Thunderclap Temple shone brightly. Countless Buddhist kingdoms were annihilated. Countless karmic forces enveloped Xiao Hua, and the other three supremes like waves. An unprecedented sense of danger appeared in Xiaohua's heart. A force that could destroy the heavens and earth quietly emerged within the thunderclap temple. Swoosh. The Maitreya Buddha didn't say anything. He took out the wonderful tree of 7 treasures and looked at the Mahavairakana Buddha indifferently. It seems that, even now, the revered one of the world still doesn't believe this Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent. Lightning flickered around his body as he coldly looked at the 2 Buddha lords and said. The Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord spoke before the Mahavairakana world lord could. Lord, if you want the world lord to trust you, take out Paramitha and hand it over to him. You're a Taoist Mahayana realm cultivator, so it's useless even if you take the Paramitha. Randang, do you think I'm a child? Xiaohua mocked him. Do you think I'll give you Higan just for your so-called trust? Who do you think you are? Your trust. This Xiao doesn't care for it. If it wasn't for the matter of the world-destroying ephemera, I wouldn't have come to Thunder Sound Temple at all. Mahavairakana, let me ask you, do you know that the 3 continents and the Dawn Rain continent were originally on the same plane? They were originally called the 4 Great Continents, but because of the immortal realm, the Dawn Rain continent was separated from the 3 continents. Is there an immortal array in between? What? For great continents? Immortal array? The Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord was shocked. How is this possible? Amitba. The Mahavairakana world lord chanted Buddha's name with an uncertain expression. However, he still shook his head and said, This is an ancient secret. I don't know. What a waste. Why would this Xiao waste my time with you? Seeing that the Mahavairakana world lord didn't know, Xiaohua immediately moved and waved his hand at the Mahavairakana world lord, saying, World Lord, let's go. Seeing this, the Mahavairakana world lord didn't say anything and raised his 7 wonders tree, brushing it towards the flame like 1,000 layers of Buddha lights. Sigh. Seeing the treasured lights of the 7 wonders tree rolling back all the Buddha lights, the Mahavairakana world lord sighed. Amitbadat then, along with the Buddha's name, the rolling Buddha lights quietly disappeared, and the world-destroying aura also dissipated like smoke. What? Xiaohua looked at the Mahavairakana world lord and said coldly, Have you thought it through? Are you ready to trust this Xiao? Amitba. The Mahavairakana world lord put his palms together and said, I don't trust you, but the Mahavairakana world lord. I think that his choice is right. World lord. The Dipankara world lord was still worried and said in a low voice, We have been planning for so long. This Xiaohua. He might be someone from the holy light world. I have my own plans. The Mahavairakana world lord replied calmly. Then, should this Xiao take out the Paramitha realm for you to see? Xiaohua looked at the Dipankara world lord with a mocking smile. No need. The Mahavairakana world lord waved his hand and said, Once the Paramitha realm aura is released, all my previous plans will be exposed. The holy light world angel hiding in the dark will definitely notice it. At this point, it seems that we have nothing to talk about. Xiaohua didn't appreciate the Mahavairakana world lord's compromise at all. He said calmly, Your Buddhism sect is playing with the holy light world angel, and this Xiao is still thinking about how to break the immortal formation. We have nothing to talk about. This Xiao is leaving. Mahavairakana world lord. You should return to the small exquisite temple, and see if you can catch the tail of that angel. Don't be anxious, venerable. The Mahavairakana world lord smiled and said, What is the world exterminating mayfly you mentioned just now? What's with the immortal formation? Even. What's with the Dawn Rain continent and the 4 great continents? Xiaohua rolled his eyes and said calmly, Previously, this Xiao wanted to say it, but you turned hostile. Now, even if you want to know, this Xiao doesn't want to say it. The world exterminating mayfly is here, and the 3 continents have no way out. My fortune gate, your Buddhism sect, and his small exquisite temple. Everyone will be killed by the mayfly. The Dipankara world lord's expression changed slightly and said in a low voice, Venerable, the world exterminating mayfly is the strange insect we saw before, right? Although this strange insect is powerful, it doesn't have the ability to destroy worlds. I've already discussed it with the world lord. My Buddhism sect has the means to kill it. You wish. Xiao Hua had the Mahavairakana World Lord's clone. Naturally, he knew the Buddhism sect's methods like the back of his hand. He wasn't sure if the Buddhism kingdom of the upper worlds had the means to kill the world-exterminating mayfly, but he was sure. The Thunder Sound Temple of the Three Continents wouldn't have such means. The Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord's words only proved that he didn't understand the world-exterminating mayfly's prowess. Then please enlighten me, Venerable. The Mahavairakana World Lord replied. All right. Xiao Hua looked at the Mahavairakana World Lord and stood in midair, telling him everything he knew. The Mahavairakana World Lord and the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord's expressions changed. They didn't expect the strange insect to have such a powerful background. They also didn't expect the four great continents to be separated by the Buddhism sect, Taoism, and the demon race. On the other side of the West Sea Immortal Formation, there was a continent where Taoism flourished. Amitba. Suddenly, a strange expression appeared on the Mahavairakana World Lord's face. He chanted, I understand now. Oh, what does the World Lord understand? The Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord asked curiously. Chuanzang Ananda. A strange expression appeared on the Mahavairakana World Lord's face. He chanted, Amitba. Previously, I already had some understanding. However, I couldn't understand why they insisted on going to the west. Now, after listening to the Guanyin Bodhisattva's explanation, I have some confidence. Amitba. Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows and said, The World Lord is going to clear up my doubts. I came to the Thunder Sound Temple not only to ask about the immortal formation and the four great continents, but also to borrow the World Lord's ability to ask Jiang Luer and Ananda. What do they want? I can't understand. Within the Buddhism sect, there is a Buddha fruit that is more noble than the Namo Maitreya Buddha. There isn't one in the Buddhism sect, but it doesn't mean there isn't one in the Buddha kingdom. The Mahavairakana World Lord smiled and said, Guanyin Bodhisattva is also one of the four great bodhisattvas of our Buddhism sect. You should know about Mount Meru, right? Mount Meru? Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. He thought of the Buddhist ruins in the Donrang continent. Didn't he go to a place similar to Mount Meru? He even went to the Tusita heavens. The Maitreya Buddha World Lord said. The Buddha kingdom is composed of countless worlds. 1,000 worlds are called a minor kiliacosm. 1,000 minor kiliacosms are called a medium kiliacosm, and 1,000 medium kiliacosms are called a major kiliacosm. Combining the minor kiliacosm, medium kiliacosm, and major kiliacosm, they are called the 3,000 major kiliacosms. The lowest layer of each world is a layer of qi, which is called the wind wheel. Above the wind wheel is a layer of water, which is called the water wheel. Above the water wheel is a layer of gold, or hard rock, which is called the golden wheel. Above the golden wheel is the land composed of mountains, oceans, and continents. Mount Meru is the center of this world. Mount Meru is the core of a world, its foundation, and even its existence. On Mount Meru, there are the palaces of the 33 heavens, where Disha resides. In the 33 heavens, there are the palaces of the Yama heavens. In the Yama heavens, there are the palaces of the Tusita heavens. In the Tusita heaven, there's a palace in the Euphoria multi-heavens. To the north of Mount Meru is the North Continent, to the east is the East Continent, to the west is the Aparagodania Continent, and to the south is the South Continent. The Maitreya Buddha World-Honored One finally said, Unfortunately, there are countless worlds in this mortal world, but there are very few worlds that fit the criteria of the Buddhist kingdom. To be able to obtain a small kiliacosm is my Buddha's fate. To be able to obtain a middle kiliacosm is my Buddha's part. To be able to obtain a big kiliacosm is my Buddha's root. With the Buddha root, a Buddha will reach the realm of perfection. Give it a recommendation vote, collect it, gift it, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 47:13. Previously, I didn't know. I thought that the three continents only had the hidden immortal continent, the Pure Land world, and the Thousand Demons sacred realm. Now that Guanyin the Venerable comes from the Morning Rain continent, then this world must have 4 continents and Mount Meru. Mahavairakana Buddha nodded and said, This is a world of my Buddha kingdom. Motherfucker, I knew it. This interface is definitely not simple. Xiaohua pondered in his heart, but then he asked curiously, if Mount Meru is on the Dawn Rain continent, then Jiangluer, Shakyamuni Buddha. The Mahavairakana revered Buddha only uttered these 5 words before he immediately shut his mouth. Ah! Xiaohua looked as if he was struck by lightning and almost jumped up. What did you say? Shakyamuni Buddha? How? How was this possible? Shakyamuni Buddha is not the Buddhist kingdom. The Buddha kingdom is a world. Nothing is impossible. Mahavairakana revered Buddha stopped Xiaohua's words and said faintly, there are Buddhas and devils on Mount Meru. There are Buddhas and Taoists in the 4 great continents. It doesn't matter if there is another Shakyamuni Buddha. Moreover, the Venerable One thought about it. If it wasn't for Shakyamuni Buddha, how could he have given up the Buddha fruit of Maitreya Buddha, the world supreme? That traitor Ananda actually followed him to seek sutras? Don't forget that Ananda is a 6-eared macaque in this life. He knows about creation and understands yin and yang. Perhaps he has already seen through something. Hearing the faint tone of Mahavairakana's revered one, Xiaohua's heart trembled. His tone was also unkind as he warned. I don't care what Luer was in his previous life, and I don't care who he is in the future. However, he is my nephew in this life. If you dare to have any ideas about him and stop him from seeking scriptures in the West, I will be the first to come after you. I will also be the first to come after the Buddhist sect. Humph. The Dipankara archaic Buddha snorted coldly, disdaining Xiaohua's threat. The Mahavairakana revered sage smiled and said, be it the Shakyamuni Buddha, the Mahavairakana revered sage, or even the Buddha of Xuanji Mahavairakana revered sage, they are all Buddhas of the Buddhist sect. Even when Ananda blamed me that day, I couldn't bear to abandon him. Not to mention that Xuanzang is sincerely praying to Buddha. How can I stop him? What if Jiang Luer is the angel of the holy light realm? Xiaohua asked faintly. Don't forget that Jiang Luer didn't come to Lane Temple, and didn't enter the lotus cleansing pool because she was afraid of exposing herself. Shakyamuni Buddha. How can an angel obtain it? The Mahavairakana revered one laughed. If he was an angel of the holy light realm, I would have been overjoyed. As for the lotus cleansing pond, the holy light realm also has a holy water pond. All angels are born from the holy water pond. The holy water pond is similar to the lotus cleansing pond. The lotus cleansing pond cannot distinguish between high-level angels. Disciple obtained the Paramitha in the Dawn Rain continent. Xiaohua thought for a moment and said, it's also possible that the angel is in the Dawn Rain continent. This is not something that I can know. The Mahavairakana revered Buddha hesitated for a moment and said, however, if that angel isn't in the 3 continents, he can't change the karma of the Pure Land world. The revered one of the world's words makes sense. Xiaohua rubbed his chin and said thoughtfully, even the revered one of the world can't interfere with the karma of the Dawn Rain continent through the immortal formation. Presumably, that so-called angel can't. At this point, Xiaohua asked unwillingly, that's not right. The revered one of the world, since it's the Buddha formation of the Buddhist sect, you are the Buddha of all Buddhas. How can you not know? The Buddha formation's arrangement may have been before or after I came to the Pure Land world. The Mahavairakana revered one replied. If it was before, I naturally wouldn't know. But even after that, my memory may be erased. The Buddhist kingdom or the world, everything is possible. 9 transformations golden body. Xiaohua sighed. There are advantages and disadvantages. Amitabha. Yes, interfering with karma and meddling with reincarnation is undoubtedly a supreme ability. But the price to pay is also great. Sometimes, it's so great that it exceeds the imagination of all the Buddha masters. The Mahavairakana revered one side. The Lane temple was silent. After a while, Xiaohua put his palms together and said, Amitabha, disciple came to the Lane temple mainly for the world exterminating strange insect, but I didn't expect. Disciple actually knows so many secrets of the Buddhist kingdom. Of course, disciple also thanks the 2 Buddha masters for their trust in disciple. However, disciple also wants to remind the 3 Buddha masters that whether it's the angel of the holy light world or the Shakyamuni Buddha of the Buddhist kingdom, they are not as important as the world exterminating mayfly. If we can't find a way to break the immortal formation, the Buddhist kingdom will be destroyed. The 3 continents, the 3 rivers and the 4 seas, billions of living beings will turn into nothingness. Amitabha. I understand. The Mahavairakana revered one laughed. Guanyin the Venerable risked his life to come to my Lane temple to send a message. How can I not know the importance of the matter? Only a cultivator like Guanyin the Venerable, who cares about billions of living beings in his heart, is the true Buddhist bodhisattva. My Buddhist choice is correct. Amitabha, disciple will take his leave. Xiaohua put his palms together. Revered one, disciple will also take his leave. The Mahavairakana revered one also saluted. After the Mahavairakana revered one, and the Dipankara archaic Buddha revered one saluted back, the Buddhist lights in the entire Lane temple slowly dissipated, and the great hall's door appeared once again. After exiting the Lane temple, Xiaohua used the Mahavairakana revered one's ability to reveal himself in the sky near the great snowy mountain. However, Xiaohua didn't leave in a hurry. Instead, he frowned and looked at the snowy mountain peak. He asked curiously, Revered one, do you think the Mahavairakana revered one's words can be trusted? Will there be any problems with him? Or, has he already turned into a devil? The Mahavairakana revered one shook his head and said, I don't know. All right then. Xiaohua smiled and said, You can accompany the Mahavairakana revered one to slowly play infernal affairs. I still have to. At this point, Xiaohua was short of breath again. Among the 4 great sacred grounds, he had been to the Dragon Island, the Great Sage Hall and the Lane Temple. Currently, he only hadn't visited the Immortal Palace. However, he understood that the Immortal Palace didn't involve immortal formations. The possibility of there being records of immortal formations within was extremely low. After all, even the 2 Pure Palaces master didn't know that the Dawn Rain continent his clone reincarnated into was the same as the 3 continents. What could an immortal emperor know? In other words, the records of immortal formations on the 3 continents had long been sealed and destroyed after the formation was set up. Until now, no one would know about this matter anymore. If Xiaohua wanted to find a way to break the formation, it would be harder than ascending to the heavens. The Mahavairakana revered one naturally understood the misery in Xiaohua's heart. He put his palms together and said, Namo Mahavairakana revered one, do your best and leave it to the heavens. As cultivators who have the ability to protect the world, we must fight until the very last moment. We can't let the world suffer. I can't die yet. Xiaohua squinted his eyes and said, Even if the 3 continents are completely destroyed by the strange insects in the end, I still have to think of a way to escape. Because I must send the billions of lives on the 3 continents back into the cycle of reincarnation. The Mahavairakana revered one didn't know that all the lives killed by the world-exterminating mayflies couldn't enter the cycle of reincarnation. Xiaohua's heart was in a mess at this moment, so he didn't tell him. The Mahavairakana revered one just nodded casually and said, Rest assured, fellow immortal. At that time, it won't be just you, there will also be all of us. Good. Xiaohua smiled and nodded. We agree to fight until the very last moment. Namo Mahavairakana revered one. The Mahavairakana revered one smiled and nodded. That's for sure. Soon after, the Mahavairakana revered one returned to the exquisite temple. Xiaohua stood high in the sky, pondering where to go. Through the teleportation formation in the snowy mountain, he could directly return to the soaring dragon mountain range, or head to the Thousand Demons sacred realm. If he flew to the South Sea, he could use the teleportation formation in the South Sea Dragon Palace to head to the West Sea Dragon Palace. Now the situation seemed to have reached a dead end. Xiaohua's thoughts of returning to the Dawn Rain continent had been completely crushed. Therefore, Xiaohua stood at the top of the snowy mountain, suddenly without a goal. He had a feeling of looking around blankly. Where should I go? The West Sea? The soaring dragon mountain range? Xiaohua, who was already a Taoist Mahayana realm expert, and the supreme expert of the human race, suddenly without a goal. He was like a headless fly, faced with only 2 choices. He actually didn't know which one to choose. In contrast to this kind of blankness, there was a heavy weight in his heart. Even the golden body of Namo Mahavairakana, revered one, couldn't bear the weight of the sorrow in his heart. The sorrow for the billions of living beings. The sorrow for this Buddhist kingdom. After standing for a whole cup of tea's time, Xiaohua finally came back to his senses. He waved his hand and invited Princess Zixia out of the Shenhua continent. Princess Zixia glanced at Xiaohua with a shocked expression and said anxiously, "Xiaohua, you. What happened to you?" "Me? I'm fine?" Xiaohua touched his head and face in puzzlement and asked curiously, "What happened to me?" "You." Looking at Xiaohua's soulless expression and the forced smile on his face, Princess Zixia only said one word, but she immediately understood something. She flew over, gently pulled Xiaohua's hand, and placed it on her cheek. She said in a low voice, "Xiaohua, don't be afraid. Even if the world is destroyed, even if this world completely disappears, I will still be with you. You are my only love in this life." Feeling the smoothness of Princess Zixia's face, as well as the scalding heat that followed, Xiaohua's eyes slightly changed. He secretly activated a secret technique and calmed his mind. Alas, what will come, will still come. Xiaohua already understood why he was so absent-minded, why he was so worried about the billions of living beings in the 3 continents, and also why he was so easily disappointed. It was because the immortal ascension was imminent. Now was the peace before the great calamity, and his immortal ascension tribulation was mixed with the great calamity of the 3 continents, causing him to lose his Tao heart and honor. Looking at Princess Zixia's virtuous appearance, Xiaohua's heart was slightly warm. On one hand, he was glad that he could find such a considerate and understanding lover. On the other hand, he felt very guilty. After all, he couldn't accompany her for much longer. He was destined to let her down. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support. Chapter 47:14. Although neither of them spoke, their hearts grew closer. A moment later, Princess Zixia asked softly, "Xiaolang, since there's no news from the Thunder Temple, why don't we go to the Immortal Palace? Perhaps His Majesty will find something." "I don't want to see him." Xiaohua shook his head. "He's too selfish. Even if there's any news, he won't tell me easily. Unless the 9 provinces' grand array failed, and the world-destroying Mayfly attacked the Immortal Palace. For the sake of the 3 mainlands' billions of lives, for the sake of the Fortune Gate's disciples, for the sake of the Xiao country's citizens." Princess Zixia looked at the man who was already arrogant and proud of the world. She inwardly curled her lips and cautiously persuaded him. "Ai." Xiaohua sighed. He waved his hand and took out the Pegasus flying chariot. He pulled Princess Zixia's hand and said, "Let's go with the Pegasus. We'll go wherever it goes." "Hee, this concubine will listen to Xiaolang." Princess Zixia pursed her lips and smiled. She then looked at the vast land and the whistling wind and said, "Xiaolang, I heard that your Kunlun mirror has a lot of spirit fruits and spirit wine. This concubine has never tasted them." "Hee, it's not just spirit fruits and spirit wine." Xiaohua chuckled. With a wave of his hand, several large immortality peaches appeared from the space and handed them over. "Ah!" Princess Zixia cried out in surprise. How did you manage to grow immortality peaches?" "Hee, what kind of person am I?" Xiaohua proudly said. "I, Xiaohua, am a cultivator who doesn't know how to give birth to a child." "Hee, it's fine." Princess Zixia pursed her lips and smiled. "This concubine will take care of it. I don't need you." Seeing Princess Zixia blushing like a peach, Xiaohua smiled and kissed Princess Zixia's forehead. He smiled and said, "Then I'll have to trouble your highness in the future." Then it's time to nourish myself." Princess Zixia nodded solemnly. She picked up a peach and took a small bite. Then she exclaimed, "Xiaolang, why is your peach so sweet compared to mother's?" As she spoke, Princess Zixia seemed to have thought of something. She hastily covered her mouth with her hand, and her large eyes darted around as if she was afraid that the Empress would hear her. "Don't be impatient." Xiaohua seemed to have thought of something. With a wave of his hand, he took out a few jade pots and jade cups and handed them to Princess Zixia. "This is spirit wine brewed from immortal peaches. Try it." Wow. Princess Xixia was overjoyed. She cried out, "Wine brewed with immortal peaches? Xiaolang, you're definitely the first one in the 3 continents." As she spoke, Princess Xixia picked up the jade pot and poured out a cup of dark green spiritual wine. Then she placed it under her nose and lightly sniffed it. After that, she closed her eyes and appeared to be intoxicated. After she carefully finished drinking the fine wine, she clapped her hands and said, "This wine should only exist in the heavens. I wonder when it will descend to the mortal world." Ah! Xiaohua laughed loudly. He seemed to have said this in the meteor belt in the Star Moon Palace. He didn't expect Princess Xixia to be so telepathic with him and actually use it here. "Xiaolang, quickly come and try it." Princess Xixia handed another cup of spirit wine to Xiaohua, as if she was presenting a treasure. This spirit wine is really rare in the world. Xiaohua was in a difficult position. He looked at the dark green wine and said, "I don't really like to drink wine." Princess Xixia tilted her head and pouted. "That was in the past. Now, I like it, so you have to accompany me. Otherwise, I won't be your princess." "Okay. Then I'll risk my life to accompany you." Xiaohua also smiled heroically. He took the jade cup and drank it in one gulp. As the spirit wine entered his mouth, an indescribable fragrance emerged from his mouth and nose. It was like a clear spring that cleansed his body and mind, washing away all inappropriate thoughts. "Wonderful." Xiaohua couldn't help but praise. He poured another cup of spirit wine from the jade pot and took a sip. Seeing that Xiaohua was happy, Princess Xixia's heart also relaxed. She handed the peach of immortality to Xiaohua and said, "Xiaolang, you should also try this. In the next few days, there was a sense of harmony." Princess Xixia accompanied Xiaohua and took advantage of the heavenly horse flying chariot flying across the sky. Princess Xixia would either point out the mountains and rivers, tell Xiaohua about some Buddhist classics, or take out musical instruments to play for Xiaohua. Or she would drink spirit wine with Xiaohua and carefully taste spirit fruits. This allowed Xiaohua's tired heart to slowly recover, and also allowed his Tao heart to become more orderly. On this day, the sun rose from the east. The brilliant light rushed from the horizon and sprinkled on Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua slowly stood up from the flying chariot. His eyes were bright and full of expression as he looked at the morning sun. A kind of aura soared straight into the sky. After the earth, fire, wind, and lightning energy rushed out of the big hole, they quickly returned to Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua once again stood upright like a mountain. Princess Xixia had a smile on her face. She knew that the indomitable man she was familiar with had returned. A short rest allowed him to have a stronger ability to shoulder the burden of the 3 continents. Accompanying such a man is the dream of many women. Princess Xixia's eyes were somewhat blurred as she secretly felt happy. "My princess, your highness." Xiaohua suddenly turned his head and whispered, "Where are we going now?" "This concubine will follow Xiaolang. Xiaolang, please make a decision." Princess Xixia smiled and softly replied, "The Immortal Palace is now preparing to set up the great array of the 9 regions. His Majesty is definitely the most important one. We are not in a hurry to go to the Immortal Palace." Xiaohua already had a plan. He said, "After the great array of the 9 regions is set up, I will go find His Majesty and explain the matter of the immortal formation and the 4 great continents to him." "Good." Princess Xixia still smiled as brightly as the morning flower. "Now we are rushing to the hidden immortal continent. There is no need to use the Pegasus flying carriage. This flying carriage is too slow," Xiaohua said again. "However, Princess, your highness must point out the direction for me. Otherwise, I will definitely get lost." What a pitiful child. Princess Xixia naturally knows about Xiaohua's problem. However, today, in order to divert Xiaohua's attention, she pursed her lips and said with a smile, "You are already so big yet you still get lost. It seems that other than not being able to give birth, you will also get lost. Of course, who asked me to be your princess, your highness? I will also take care of this matter." "Great." Xiaohua put away the Pegasus flying carriage with a wave of his hand. He grabbed Princess Xixia's hand and flew towards the South Sea using the lightning escape technique. However, While he was flying, Xiaohua released the Netherworld Origin Force. Xiaohua originally planned to go to the South Sea and use the South Sea Dragon Palace's transmission array to go to the North Sea Dragon Palace or the East Sea Dragon Palace to return to the hidden immortal continent. However, when he arrived at the South Sea, he discovered that he had collected more than 1 million incomplete souls along the way. All of them were killed by the world-exterminating strange insects, the human race, sea tribe, and even the dragon race. Since the prelude to the slaughter had already begun and the Fortune Gate's disciples were busy moving to the West Sea, Xiaohua was not in a hurry to use the Dragon Palace's transmission array. He directly used the lightning escape technique to pass through the South Sea and East Sea and return to the hidden immortal continent. After all, if the incomplete souls stayed in the world for too long, there might be some changes. Xiaohua needed to put them into the inside of the space as soon as possible. Several months later, in the depths of the East Sea, a streak of lightning streaked across the waves like a bolt of lightning. It was none other than Xiaohua, who was enshrouded in lightning, and Princess Wuxia, who was wearing a smile on her face. At this time, Xiaohua had already hidden the heaviness in his heart. No one knew that in these several months, Xiaohua had actually collected more than 100 million incomplete souls. Moreover, no one knew better than Xiaohua that the world-exterminating mayfly had quietly stretched out its ferocious face all over the 3 continents and 4 seas, beginning to reap lives. Xiaohua flew into the hidden immortal continent and did not stop for a moment. He directly flew in the direction of Yu province. Darling Xiao, Princess Wuxia was a little worried. This concubine is tired, can we stop for a few days? Xiaohua naturally knew that this was Princess Wuxia's excuse. He thought for a moment and said, "Let's continue for another half a day." "Alright, it's a promise. Just half a day, no more than 2 hours." Princess Wuxia smiled faintly. She reached out and pulled Xiaohua's earlobe a few times. After flying for another half a day, Xiaohua's heart slowly relaxed. This was because in this half a day, he had only collected several tens of thousands of human souls, which was much less than before. He already had a plan in his heart. He knew that although the curtains to the end of the world had already been drawn, those world-exterminating mayflies had not formed a trend of crushing everything. The 1,000-meter-long mayflies that Xiaohua had seen before were still very few. There were not even a few hundred meters or a few thousand meters. Most of the mayflies were only an inch long. Therefore, in the boundless seas of the 4 seas, these world-exterminating mayflies could do whatever they wanted. Of course, while Xiaohua was relieved, he also raised his vigilance. After all, from what he could see, the mayflies had a certain level of intelligence. Moreover, they might not be inferior to the human race, monster race, or sea race. Xiaohua told Princess Wuxia his plan. Princess Wuxia did not hesitate to suggest, "Take the initiative to attack. Kill the world-exterminating mayflies before they can sprout. Moreover, the more mayflies we kill now, the less pressure our 3 continents will have in the future." "Good. Let's rush to." Xiaohua nodded in agreement. However, before he could finish speaking, Princess Wuxia smiled and said, "Darling Xiao, you only need to preside over the overall situation. I will take care of the small matters in your place." As she spoke, Princess Wuxia raised her hand and took out a phoenix hairpin from her head. As she spat out a mouthful of true qi, the phoenix hairpin instantly transformed into a palm-sized flying phoenix. Princess Wuxia raised her hand and touched the forehead of the flying phoenix. The flying phoenix let out a clear cry and rushed into the sky, disappearing in an instant. In the time it took to brew a cup of tea, layers of lightning surged high up in the sky, and a distorted illusory figure of 1,000 feet in size fell down from the sky. When the illusory figure appeared in front of Xiaohua, thousands of pillars of vast spirit qi crashed down and condensed into a celestial palace inspector dressed in Confucian robes. Chapter 47:15. The inspector stood still with a respectful expression on his face. He carefully handed over the phoenix hairpin in his hand and bowed. "Inspector Zhang Hao greets Master Xiao Lei and Princess Wuxia." Princess Wuxia received the phoenix hairpin and ordered, "The Fortune Gate's first master, Daoist Xiaohua, has decreed that the world-exterminating mayfly is still in its infancy. If our 3 continents and 4 seas want to win the war, we must first suppress the enemy. I hereby inform the Immortal Palace, Dragon Island, Great Holy Hall, and Thunder Temple that from today onwards, according to the agreement made at the Jade Pool, they will be the first to fight in their respective defensive zones. Yes, this general understands. Zhang Hao dared not delay. His figure flickered as he was about to fly away. Princess Zixia added, Daoist Xiao is currently traveling all over the 3 continents to find a way to exterminate the world-exterminating mayfly. He is unable to send a message to the other sex venerables. Your Majesty, please do it on his behalf. This general will definitely report the truth. This general also thanks Daoist Xiao on behalf of the world. Zhang Hao bowed, then turned into a streak of lightning and flew away. Xiao Hua frowned and said, Xian, the Immortal Palace's time is different from the 3 continents. Wouldn't it take a lot of time to send a message back and forth? Rest assured, darling Xiao. Princess Zixia pursed her lips and smiled. The speed of sending a message depends on the importance of the message, and who is the sender. Darling Xiao's name has shaken the world, and the content of this message is related to the lives of the 3 continents. I can guarantee that this message will be sent to His Majesty's Jade Desk in less than half a day. At the latest, the message will be sent to Dragon Island, Thunder Temple, and Great Holy Hall. The immortal soldiers and generals on the hidden immortal mainland, as well as the 100 schools of philosophers, will also receive the message. This Xiao understands. Xiao Hua smiled and said, It seems that the Immortal Palace always used time as an excuse to slow down their actions. Were they all excuses? Not necessarily. Princess Zixia replied. We should talk about the matter as it is. Speaking of this, Princess Zixia asked, Darling Xiao, do you still want to send a message to the Fortune Gate? There's no need for the Fortune Gate. Xiao Hua thought for a moment and said, Lu Yi and the others are all young disciples. They are more belligerent. Moreover, Jiang Hong is overseeing the West Sea Dragon Palace. She must have established her prestige first. Who knows, the smoke of war might have already risen in the West Sea. Where should we go now? Gun Prefecture, Xiao Country. In the end, Xiao Hua was still worried about the citizens of the Xiao Empire. He still wanted to see for himself. Now that the situation was urgent, if possible, he still wanted to bring them into the Shenhua continent. All right. Princess Zixia raised her hand and pointed into the distance. She couldn't help but smile as she said, Darling Xiao, let's go there. Princess Zixia really loved this adorable Xiao Hua beside her. Through her observations during this period of time, she knew that Xiao Hua, a Taoist Mahayana realm cultivator, and a supreme being of the human race, really had a poor sense of direction. He wasn't pretending. The lightning escape, which was known as the fastest in the world, was indeed fast, but the direction was too horrible to look at. However, it was precisely this flaw that made Princess Zixia feel that this was the kind of person she should love. He had both advantages and disadvantages. Sometimes he would even cry in her arms. For a moment, Princess Zixia was overflowing with happiness. She really didn't care about the apocalypse in front of her, because she had a strong and blind trust in this man. She firmly believed that this man she loved deeply, this man who couldn't give birth and was a grandmaster in everything else, would definitely be able to save the lives of the 3 mainlands from this crisis. Xiao Hua naturally saw the deep love in Princess Zixia's eyes. However, he was even more sensitive to the faint smile on Princess Zixia's lips. He blushed slightly and said embarrassedly, Oh, I forgot to tell you. Other than giving birth, cough cough, and finding directions, I can't do it. It's okay. Princess Zixia smiled sweetly and said, Darling Xiao has no eyes, so I am Darling Xiao's eyes. This Xiao has no legs, so I am Darling Xiao's legs. If Darling Xiao can't find the way home, then I will bring Darling Xiao home. Then I'm relieved. Let's go. Xiao Hua's heart was also filled with sweetness. His previous nervousness slowly disappeared. He pulled Princess Zixia's hand and rushed towards Gun Prefecture with lightning around his body. Sure enough, in less than 2 days, while Xiao Hua was flying, he heard the sound of wind and clouds surging in the sky. Streaks of lightning covered the entire sky like a flash flood. Along with the flickering of lightning, a majestic voice that seemed like the will of heaven and earth resounded. By the will of the heavens and the immortal emperor's decree, today, the mayfly extermination will descend upon the world at the decree of the immortal emperor. Every word was like a thunderclap. It was extremely frightening. The entire hidden immortal continent seemed to be shrouded by this voice. As long as it was a human or a Confucian cultivator, they could hear it clearly. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the immortal emperor's voice finally stopped. The dark clouds and lightning that filled the sky also gradually dispersed, revealing the clear sky and the blazing sun in the sky. Good. Xiaohua smiled and said, His Majesty can be considered to be swift and decisive this time. He didn't slack off. Princess Wuxia hesitated for a moment, then probed. Actually, as far as I know, His Majesty can be considered a diligent and good immortal emperor. However, he is too rigid and cares too much about his face in many places. Moreover, in the immortal palace, public and private matters sometimes can't be separated clearly. Xiaohua knew that Princess Wuxia wanted to ease the tension between him and immortal Emperor Gochen. He smiled and tightly grasped Princess Wuxia's hand, saying, Don't worry, my princess. For your sake, I won't make things too difficult for him. Since ancient times, Confucians and Taoists have been at odds. Now your fortune gate can create a new world. It really isn't easy. Princess Wuxia was still somewhat worried. But this is only on the surface. Our Confucian cultivators have been in charge of the hidden immortal continent for who knows how many years. The Confucian cultivators have been in conflict with the Taoist sect since ancient times. It's only because the four great clans are dissatisfied with the military that the Confucian cultivators haven't really made a move against the Taoist sect. This time, regardless of the outcome of the world-exterminating ephemera disaster, your Taoist sect's future is worrying. Xiaohua nodded, indicating that he understood. The world-exterminating ephemera disaster was unavoidable, so there was no need to mention anything. However, if the world-exterminating ephemera disaster was avoided, whether it was the Confucian cultivators, Buddhist sect, or the demonic beast race, they would definitely be unprecedentedly united. The Fortune Gate's disciples would also suffer heavy losses in the world-exterminating ephemera battle. Under such circumstances, the iron-willed immortal emperor would absolutely not care about what the Fortune Gate had done before. He would definitely unite with the four great clans to raise his butcher's knife against the Fortune Gate. Of course, it couldn't be ruled out that the Fortune Gate could integrate with the Confucian cultivators in the world-exterminating war, forming a noble friendship in war, and laying a solid foundation for future peaceful coexistence. Of course, Xiaohua understood that Princess Wuxia's thoughts were the thoughts of ordinary people. It was the thoughts of all the cultivators of the three continents who didn't know about Xiaohua's secret. Other than Xiaohua, who couldn't give birth and couldn't recognize directions. Was he an ordinary person? Not to mention how many people would fall in the world-exterminating war. How many souls would be collected by Xiaohua's space, and how many talented Fortune Gate disciples would be born on the Shenhua continent. However, with the current Fortune Gate disciples on the Shenhua continent, Xiaohua wouldn't be afraid of the Confucian cultivators and Buddhist sect who had experienced the baptism of war. Not to mention, the demonic beast race's #1 great sage, one of the Buddhist sect's 3 great Buddhist lords, Maitreya Buddha of the world, and the Immortal Palace's Scholar Palace's Master of Literature, were all Xiaohua's avatars. Of course, Xiaohua wouldn't tell Princess Wuxia his true thoughts. He wouldn't make things difficult for Princess Wuxia, and he wouldn't let Princess Wuxia fall into injustice. He nodded and said, I have considered your thoughts, but don't worry, as long as I'm on the 3 continents, no one can bully my Fortune Gate's disciples. If anyone dares to touch a finger, I will cut off one of their arms. Darling Xiao is so domineering. Princess Wuxia gave him a thumbs up and praised. Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Faint. What kind of domineering is this? His Majesty's command, the whole world prostrates, that's domineering. This concubine likes darling Zhao's domineering attitude. I don't like other people's domineering attitude. Princess Wuxia blinked her eyes and replied. Hearing Princess Wuxia refer to the immortal emperor as someone else, Xiaohua's heart warmed, and he felt as if the whole world was covered in a layer of light. However, before he could speak, waves of inexplicable fluctuations surged out from the distant horizon and rushed into the heavens and earth. Although these fluctuations were very faint and strange, they were like sharp swords that pierced through Xiaohua's heart. These fluctuations were released when the world-exterminating ephemera swarms attacked. Not good. Xiaohua's expression changed, and he hurriedly released his divine sense. However, when he saw the situation in front of him, a cold sneer appeared on his face. What's wrong? Seeing Xiaohua's expression change, Princess Wuxia also hurriedly released her golden pupils. Unfortunately, the range of her divine sense couldn't compare to Xiaohua's. Therefore, she withdrew her golden pupils and hurriedly asked Xiaohua. It was also at this time that Princess Wuxia saw the cold sneer on Xiaohua's face. Duanmu family? Princess Wuxia looked at the ground and immediately came to a realization. She frowned and said, Xiaohua, is the Duanmu family under attack? That's right. Xiaohua was still using his divine sense to observe the situation in front of him. He nodded and said, that muscular man with arrogant eyebrows is the Duanmu family's patriarch, Duanmu Tianji, right? Yes. Princess Wuxia naturally knew about the grudge between Xiaohua and the Duanmu family. She lightly gritted her teeth and replied, Duanmu Tianji's original name was Duanmu Tianjiao. When he was young, his talent was heavenly and he looked down on everyone. His father had high expectations for him, so he took on the name Tianjiao. When he was 20, Duanmu Tianjiao changed his name to Duanmu Tianji, the same name as the Nangong family's patriarch, Nangong Tianji. Although he boasted that he was a Tianjiao and showed off his abilities too much, everyone knew that Duanmu Tianji was arrogant and wanted to compete with the four great families. Chapter 47:16. No wonder, Xiaohua said in a low voice. Although this guy's Confucian cultivation method can't compare to the orthodox 5 qis unifications, it can be considered to be a unique way to temper his true qi to another extreme. He really is a genius. Sigh, even a secondary first-class Confucian family's family head is a literary star. Aren't there too many literary stars in hidden immortal continent? Princess Wuxia rolled her eyes at Xiaohua and explained, our Confucian 100 schools of thought, from a 9th-class family to a 1st-class family, all have countless years of heritage. To become a 3rd-class family, the family head must be a literary star. Even a 9th-grade origin energy literary saint cannot be. Otherwise, it can only be a 3rd-class family. This Duanmu family is a 1st-class family, only below famous families like Confucius and Mencius. Naturally, they also have a lot of heritage. It might take a lot of effort to get a half-saint literary star, but getting a quasi or void saint literary star is not a problem. Xiaohua was somewhat flabbergasted. He asked curiously, this Xiao has seen a half-saint literary star before. It seems that the patriarchs of the 4 great clans are all half-saint literary stars. But what is this quasi-saint literary star and void saint literary star? The sage pen points to the literary star. Sage is the key. Half-saint is naturally half-saint, but that sage is also a real sage, a sage whose name is engraved on the literary star. Quasi-sage is the Confucian cultivator who is second only to the sage, and can only engrave their name on the literary star. They can also point to the literary star, but that literary star is an illusion, different from a real literary star. Illusionary divine is the illusion of a real sage. They can also point to the literary song, but this literary song is half a literary song, or an incomplete literary song. Hee, I understand now. Xiaohua smiled. In the future, it is hard to find the art of teaching, so the Confucian 100 schools of thought found another way, using their own method to become a literary star. Damn it, this literary song. Is it a real literary song? Art of teaching? Princess Wuxia was stunned, somewhat confused. Obviously, she did not know that the art of teaching was needed to become a literary star. I spilled the beans. Xiaohua suddenly came to a realization and smiled. Let's not talk about this anymore. I keep feeling that doing this is somewhat opportunistic. Sigh, the human race. Princess Wuxia sighed. They just like to take advantage of opportunities and cultivate properly. If they can become a literary star, then they'll be a literary star. If they can't, then they'll just become a literary saint with a 9th grade origin power. Everyone wants to fight for the title of a literary star and leave their names in history. However, these void saint literary stars and quasi-saint literary stars are recognized by the heavenly court. Oh no! Xiao Hua was originally about to mock the heavenly court, but suddenly, his expression changed drastically as he exclaimed, "Duanmu Tian is in danger." As he spoke, he took out the Kunlun mirror without hesitation. With a shake of his hand, he sent Princess Zixia into the Shenhua continent. He even called out, "Xian Xian. Hide first." Princess Zixia didn't even have time to reply before she was taken away by Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua's figure flickered as he teleported into the distance. Thousands of miles away from Xiao Hua and Princess Zixia, there was a continuous valley. The valley's scenery was beautiful, and hundreds of flowers were blooming. Layers of beautiful flowers covered the ground like heavenly weaves. It was truly a paradise on earth. However, at this moment, this beautiful field was completely surrounded by tens of millions of world-exterminating mayflies. These mayflies were densely packed, and the small ones were several inches long while the large ones were thousands of feet long. They were crazily devouring the ground and attacking groups of cultivators. On the ground, more than half of the beautiful scenery had already been devoured. In the sky, millions of cultivators were also in imminent danger. Every moment, there would be miserable screams, and cultivators' corpses would fall with the wind. At this moment, the sun was really scorching hot, like a fireball hanging directly above the valley. However, this bright sunlight couldn't block the dazzling brilliance of the imperial equipment amidst the mayfly swarm. Rumble! From one of the mountain peaks, a massive pillar of boundless energy shot out. Popping sounds could be heard as numerous mayflies, some dozens of meters tall, began to grow larger. However, they couldn't devour the boundless energy, and instead exploded into dust. Woo! After the vast chi pillar, a strange thing that was thousands of feet long flew out from a gap between the strange insects. This thing had a human face and a snake's body. Its entire body was crimson red, and there seemed to be the sun and moon revolving between its slightly closed eyes. Wasn't this the torch dragon god demon puppet that the Duanmu family had obtained from the godfiend blood pool? As soon as this torch dragon god demon puppet appeared, it immediately had a kind of power that was like a stormy sea, and it rushed out in all directions. However, this power didn't rush out for more than a few miles. Wong wong! The whole sky rumbled again, and tens of thousands of mayflies tore through the void and surrounded this power. They even began to devour this seemingly invisible power. Gigi! From the place where the torch dragon god demon puppet had rushed out, a sharp screeching sound rang out. A huge black shadow followed it like a shadow, chasing after it. A tail that was even more vigorous than a python's pierced into the void, and the hind legs that swept up the shadow ignored the distance between them. With a schwa sound, it had already caught up to the back of the torch dragon god demon puppet. Roar! The torch dragon god demon puppet seemed to have come to life, and it roared furiously. Its huge snake tail stirred up the air in midair, and it smashed towards the black hind legs of the mayfly. Boom! A huge sound rang out, and light splashed in all directions. Not only did the torch dragon god demon puppet break the hind legs of the mayfly, it also punched the mayfly's eyes, and that huge body also rolled in midair. However, it was also at this time that the tip of the tail that had stabbed into the void appeared out of thin air, and it pierced towards the neck of the torch dragon god demon puppet. The tip of the tail was extremely strange. When the torch dragon god demon puppet discovered it, it was already less than 100 feet away. The tip of the tail was so sharp that it had already pierced the surface of the god demon puppet, and layers of wrinkles appeared. Needless to say, if the torch dragon god demon puppet was stabbed, it would definitely suffer a great loss. At this critical moment, the torch dragon god demon puppet's slightly closed eyes opened in the soil. The left eye was a sun, and the right eye was a moon, and at the same time, they emitted a bright light. A golden pillar of light, and a silver pillar of light covered the space where the tail was at the same time. Shwa! At the place where the light intersected, the entire space suddenly became strangely still, and that tail actually stopped moving. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the torch dragon god demon puppet's entire body fell from the sky and smashed into the root of the tail. Boom! The god demon puppet was so hard that even the shell of the mayfly couldn't bear it, and that tail was instantly shattered. It was also at this time that the two pillars of light that had just enveloped the space turned into fireflies and fell down one after another. GG. That 1,000 feet large mayfly hissed, and its body emitted a dark green and gray mist, and it began to gradually hide in the air. Where do you think you're going? Suddenly, a distorted silhouette of light that was like a piece of paper squeezed out from the encirclement of the strange insects. A furious roar came from the silhouette of light, and then the 10 fingers of 2 giant hands transformed into pillars of light that caught the tumbling 1,000 feet long strange insect. Boom boom boom. The silhouette of light seemed to fill up like a bubble as Duanmu Tianji's child body materialized. The countless pillars of light crashed into his child body, and at the same time, a rosy halo of light passed through his arms and into Fuyu's body. Wang Wang. The strange insect's body suddenly swelled, but in a moment, that mist shrouded it again, and the mayfly's body slowly shrank. Damn it! Duanmu Tianji roared, and a multicolored light appeared on his subbody. This multicolored light was like clouds, and also like waves. If one looked carefully, it also looked like a jade lotus. The vast chi in the air was like a heavenly river, and almost endless. It fell into his subbody. Naturally, the multicolored light on the subbody's arm rushed into the mayfly's body, like a torrential river. In half a cup of tea's time, the 1,000 feet large mayfly's body shrank and expanded several times, and finally, with a boom, it exploded and turned into ashes. Phew! Duanmu Tianji breathed a sigh of relief, and with a flick of his sleeve, he killed hundreds of small mayflies that pounced at him. Looking at the torch dragon god demon puppet in the distance, he shouted, Jianqi, the god demon puppet you refined is indeed not bad. It can actually defeat a 9th grade essence energy strange insect. Reporting to family head, Duanmu Jianqi's voice came from the god demon puppet, and that voice was very arrogant. With this disciple's cultivation, I'm far from being able to unleash the power of this god demon puppet. If you refine it, it can definitely surpass the 9th grade essence energy. I don't care about external things. Duanmu Tianji waved his hand and laughed. Moreover, you're too naive. If it can surpass the 9th grade essence energy, the immortal emperor would have already found trouble with my Duanmu family. Hehe. Duanmu Jianqi laughed mischievously. Even if it can't surpass the 9th grade essence energy, I'm afraid it won't be a problem to conquer the entire hidden immortal continent. Of course, this is also because the strange insect is powerful, otherwise there would be no need to. Before Duanmu Jianqi could finish speaking, Duanmu Tianji's expression changed, and he hurriedly raised his hand and pointed. Quick, Jianqi, there are several 1,000 feet large mayflies coming out from the void. Duanmu Tianji hadn't even finished speaking. His figure shook, and he transformed into a ray of light that charged towards the swarm of mayflies. However, he hadn't even flown 300 m away when a black shadow that was a few tens of thousands of meters in size suddenly appeared high up in the sky. The black shadow had appeared so suddenly that it seemed as if it had been there since the ancient times. Not good. Seeing that this mayfly was several times larger than the one he just defeated, Duanmu Jianqi knew that things were not good. Without waiting for the mayfly to make any moves, a 5-colored light shadow immediately appeared around his body, and the torch dragon god demon puppet once again used its strongest technique. 2 light pillars intersected and enveloped the mayfly. However, the torch dragon god demon puppet's technique already contained a trace of the law of time, so how could an ordinary human cultivator calmly use it? Not only did the 2 light pillars become much dimmer, but the area they covered also shrunk a lot. However, even so, it seemed that the several 1,000 feet large mayfly was still stiff in the sky. Roar! The torch dragon god demon puppet roared and opened its mouth, and a huge amount of noble chi immediately crashed into the mayfly's body. At the same time, the puppet's huge snake tail also fiercely smashed toward one of the mayfly's eyes. The torch dragon god demon puppet's move immediately attracted Duanmu Tianji's attention. Seeing such a powerful aura pressing down like a mountain, Duanmu Tianji was greatly shocked. He couldn't care about the several thousand feet large mayflies under him. And his body suddenly expanded, and his hands reached out to stab into the body of the several thousand feet large mayfly. However, Duanmu Tianji only reached out 1,000 feet, and he hesitated again. After all, it was already difficult for him to kill the several thousand feet large mayfly just now, and he was confident that the true qi in his body wasn't enough to make this several thousand feet large mayfly explode. In a moment, Duanmu Tianji made a decision. He waved his hands, and a dark golden thread of light flew out from his body. It streaked across the sky, and directly landed on the mayfly's neck. Seeing the dark golden thread of light wrapped around the mayfly's neck, Duanmu Tianji's heart, which had been hanging in the air, finally calmed down. Because he clearly knew the power of this dark golden thread of light, he could guarantee that even if Nangong Tianji was entangled by this thread of light, on this hidden immortal continent, there would only be one patriarch called Tianji left. Unfortunately, Duanmu Tianji still thought too much. The several thousand feet large mayfly that even Xiaohua, the North Star, and the other supremes couldn't deal with, was actually killed by the golden thread of light? When the thread of light flickered, the mayfly's neck was immediately flattened, and not incomparably hard. Duanmu Tianji had a bad feeling, because the mayflies he encountered before all had hard shells. How could they be so soft? Not good. Duanmu Tianji's heart was somewhat flustered, and he hurriedly wanted to use other divine abilities, but at this moment, swoosh, a layer of obscure ripples appeared on the surface of the several thousand feet large mayfly's body. This ripple landed in the air. Pa pa pa. The light pillars in the air were immediately shattered, and at the same time, those light pillars connected to the torch dragon god demon puppet immediately rolled back and rushed towards Duanmu Jiji. Roar. The torch dragon god demon puppet's body radiated brilliance in all directions, and it raised its head to howl. Swoosh. Like a light smoke, a black shadow swept out from the void, and swept across the neck of the torch dragon god demon puppet. Clang. An obscure sound suddenly appeared, and several sparks flew out from the surface of the torch dragon god demon puppet's body. Although cracks appeared on the surface of the torch dragon god demon puppet's body, the legs of the mayfly, which surpassed the 10th level of elemental energy, actually didn't shatter the torch dragon god demon puppet. Puff. It was also at this moment that Duanmu Jiji, who was inside the torch dragon god demon puppet, had already made his move, and a blood-colored pillar of elemental energy rushed out and attacked the mayfly. Unfortunately, just as the pillar of elemental energy was shot out, the hind leg that was originally blocked by the torch dragon god demon puppet suddenly trembled, and a shadow appeared from the sharp hind leg and directly entered the body of the torch dragon god demon puppet. That hard body actually didn't have any resistance at all. Ah! With a miserable cry, Duanmu Jiji's several hundred feet large subbody was hacked out of the torch dragon god demon puppet by the shadow of the torch dragon god demon puppet's hind leg. Moreover, just as Duanmu Jiji's subbody appeared, it was immediately split in half, and flesh and blood splattered everywhere, and the flesh that fused with the subbody turned into fragments. Facing the torch dragon god demon puppet, Duanmu Jiji, who had lost the protection of the torch dragon god demon puppet, was simply no match for the torch dragon god demon puppet. Not to mention Duanmu Jiji, at the same time, just as Duanmu Tianji was about to backhand his subbody to activate another divine ability, the tip of the torch dragon god demon puppet's tail silently poked out from the void inside his subbody, and instantly destroyed Duanmu Tianji's subbody. Seeing the subbody collapse with a loud bang, and the colorful pillar of light scattered in all directions, Duanmu Tianji resolutely abandoned his subbody and flesh, and wanted to escape from his mutated primordial spirit. Swoosh! The other hind leg, which was previously hidden in an unknown place in the void, suddenly crossed the horizon. As a faint shadow swept past, all of the 5 colors were split in half. Ow! How can it be so powerful? Duanmu Tianji was incomparably shocked, and after an extremely unwilling voice rang out in the 5 colors, It abruptly stopped. Then the several thousand feet large torch dragon god demon puppet opened its mouth greedily, and in an instant, it covered the space near the 5 colors, and even the void was being devoured by it. As it devoured, the body of the torch dragon god demon puppet swelled up again. Damn it! While the torch dragon god demon puppet was leisurely enjoying itself, Xiaohua's figure had just appeared in the distant sky. While he was cursing inwardly, he saw that under the body of the several thousand feet large torch dragon god demon puppet, in the valley that was surrounded by millions of torch dragons, the several thousand feet large torch dragon god demon puppet was almost invincible. Every time it flew, dozens of Duanmu family disciples would be killed. After these disciples were killed, another 1,000 feet large torch dragon god demon puppet came over to devour them, and waves of energy waves that soared to the sky wreaked havoc in the valley. The smell of blood rushed to the 9 heavens. Swoosh! Just as Xiaohua approached, the originally calm sky suddenly split open, and a stinger fell from the sky. It was actually another several thousand feet large torch dragon god demon puppet that had been hiding in the void. Xiaohua's figure flickered, barely dodging the sneak attack. He immediately took out the Kunlun mirror, and a light pillar rumbled as the lightning reverend and venerable Yun flew out. Xiaohua threw a medicinal pill to each of them, and without stopping, his figure blurred as he charged towards the swarm of torch dragons above the valley. Boom, boom, boom. In just a short while, several explosions sounded from the swarm of torch dragons. The several thousand feet large torch dragon god demon puppet was killed by Xiaohua. Then, Xiaohua charged out again, shaking the Kunlun mirror once more. Groups of Fortune Gate disciples flew out to meet the swarm of torch dragons. Looking at the lightning reverend, he had already turned into lightning and disappeared into the void, barely dodging the torch dragon god demon puppet's stinger attack. Boom! As expected, the several thousand feet large torch dragon god demon puppet was unable to withstand the heterogeneous true energy contained in the medicinal pill, and exploded in an instant. The thunderbolt immortal didn't stop for even a moment. He raised his hand and took out the sword gourd that he had refined again. As the thunderbolt immortal raised his hand and pointed at it, shwa! Dozens of green and red spirit exterminating origin light soared into the sky and landed on the strange bugs that were hundreds of feet long. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A series of light sounds rang out, and as expected by Xiaohua, the spirit execution vital light, which had been refined with the essence of the torch dragon god demon puppet's hind legs and stinger, easily killed these several thousand feet large torch dragons. Good. The lightning reverend laughed, and was about to clap his hands, but the corpses of the several thousand feet large torch dragons that had been killed had only fallen 1,000 feet, and mist gushed out from their bodies. The torch dragon god demon puppet's body shrunk rapidly, and when it had shrunk to several hundred feet, a fresh skull was born again. Chapter 47:17. Fuck. The lightning reverend was dumbfounded. How can we live like this? Why can't we kill these strange insects? Kill. The lightning reverend was enraged. He sent out the soul-punishing light to kill the mayflies again. Fortunately, the lightning reverend was patient. He killed the mayflies several times before they were reduced to the size of black dots. Even so, the mayflies were still alive. Looks like I can only use my true energy to make them explode. Only then did the lightning reverend, who had lost his head from anger, wave his hand again. Several lightning bolts fell, and the true energy contained in the lightning bolts exploded the mayflies. At this time, Reverend Yun, who had killed another mayfly, flew over and mocked. Fellow Taoist, Xiao has already tried, but you don't believe me. What's wrong? I don't believe it. Seeing that Reverend Yun had unleashed a vast dragon energy that caused one after another mayflies to explode, Lightning Reverend straightened his neck and retorted. Reverend Yun didn't want to argue with this idiot. He smiled and said, "If you don't believe me, then go tell the mayflies. I don't care." Then, Reverend Yun swung his dragon tail and attacked another mayfly. After Xiaohua, the Lightning Reverend, and Reverend Yun killed the mayflies, they stopped and stood in midair. The three of them looked like they were watching the battle, But in fact, Xiaohua had already released his netherworld origin force to collect the souls of the Duanmu family's disciples. Something's not right. Xiaohua, who was collecting the souls, suddenly trembled. He exclaimed, "Why aren't there any mayflies' souls? I clearly saw more than a dozen mayflies being killed, but where the netherworld origin force swept over, there was nothing? Could it be that the mayflies don't have souls? Impossible, right? Every living being has a soul." Reverend Yun was also stunned. Perhaps, these mayflies are from the upper realm, and fellow Taoists can't collect them? Impossible. The lightning reverend immediately retorted. When we were in the ruins and on the desolate continent, we also collected souls from the upper realm. Currently, on the Shenhua continent, many of our Fortune Gate's outstanding disciples are probably reincarnated from the souls we collected back then. Perhaps. Xiaohua pondered and said, "It's because the mayflies don't have souls. All the living beings they devoured and killed can't enter reincarnation? Ask fellow Taoist Wu to come out and see." The lightning reverend laughed. "True." Xiaohua nodded. "Taoist Wu, ever since he come out, he has been in seclusion. It's time for him to come out." Unfortunately, when Xiaohua's mind entered the space, the witch priest's figure turned into a dark green bone flower. Waves of obscure and strange green seal script appeared around him like flowers blooming and withering. It was obvious that he had reached the key point of cultivation. Taoist to come out. The moment Xiaohua came out, the lightning reverend and Reverend Yin understood. Reverend Yin looked around and said, "Fellow Taoist, if there's nothing else, I will also go cultivate." "I will go too." The lightning reverend was unwilling to be left behind. "If I don't cultivate, I'll be overtaken by that strange thing." The lightning reverend threw the sword gourd to Xiaohua and followed Reverend Yun back to the Shenhua continent. The number of mayflies besieging the Duanmu family was much more than the number of mayflies besieging the High Cloudside Hall. This time, the battle had gone on for more than 10 days before it came to an end. At this time, the valley was no longer able to take its original shape. The small red mayflies had swallowed a layer of the ground, and the newly exposed land was dyed a reddish-brown by the blood of the Duanmu family's disciples. In less than 10 days, half of the Duanmu family's disciples had fallen. Even among the Fortune Gate's disciples, although Xiaohua had sent out disciples with a cultivation of grade 4 and above, 20% of them had fallen in this great battle. If it weren't for the fact that Xiaohua could store their souls into his space, he would be heartbroken. As dusk fell, the land was dyed red with blood. Although there were still some mayflies that escaped aimlessly into the void, the Duanmu family and Fortune Gate's disciples were too tired to chase after them. Thus they let them escape into the void. Sigh. Xiaohua's heart ached. He raised his hand, and a giant lightning hand several hundred li wide appeared. Rumbling noises resounded as the giant lightning hand fell into the void. Puff, 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 puff. Sounds like firecrackers during the New Year echoed in the void. Junior Duanmu Qingyu greets Master Xiao Lei. After Xiaohua retrieved the giant lightning hand, an old man with white hair and beard flew out from the valley. He landed in front of Xiaohua and bowed respectfully. Xiaohua's divine sense swept over him, and he immediately knew that this blood-stained Duanmu Qingyu was a literary saint with a cultivation of 9th grade essence force. "You're welcome." Xiaohua helped Duanmu Qingyu up and said in a low voice, "I'm late." "Sigh, there's nothing to be late about." Duanmu Qingyu sighed. "If it weren't for Master Xiao Lei's arrival, if it weren't for the Fortune Gate's disciples' help, my Duanmu family would have been annihilated. My Duanmu family will never forget the Fortune Gate's grace to my Duanmu family." Shame appeared on Duanmu Qingyu's face as he continued. "To think that my Duanmu family and Master Xiao Lei. It's all in the past, there's no need to mention it." Xiaohua hurriedly waved his hand, stopping Duanmu Qingyu's confession. "Now the 3 mainlands' survival is at stake. Our grudges should be put aside." Senior. Even as he spoke, another cultivator flew out from the group of disciples in the valley. As soon as he landed in front of Xiaohua, he dropped to his knees and kowtowed. "Junior was wrong just now. Senior, please forgive me. Wasn't this the Duanmu Liangsheng who had chased after Xiaohua and Song Longzi's cultivation dwelling?" However, the current Duanmu Liangsheng was no longer as carefree and elegant as before. Not only was his scholarly robe in tatters, even his left arm was missing. Clearly, it was chopped off by Fu Yu's hind leg. Xiao Hua hurriedly helped Duanmu Liangsheng up, smiling as he said, "You were merely following the sect's orders. You can't be blamed for this matter." Senior. Tears flowed down from the corners of Duanmu Liangsheng's eyes. Perhaps it was because of the sect's changes, or perhaps it was because of his injuries, but he said in a melancholic tone, "Junior has never seen a cultivator as magnanimous as Senior, repaying evil with good." Master Shaolei is the Buddhist sect's Namo merciful great Guanyin Bodhisattva, Duanmu Qingyu hurriedly added. If Senior isn't merciful, how could there be a merciful person in the three mainlands? Yes, that is indeed the case, Duanmu Liangsheng hurriedly said with a smile. Master Shaolei, Duanmu Qingyu continued, you've given my Duanmu family a new lease on life. Now that my Duanmu family's patriarch has just fallen, why don't Master Shaolei take over my Duanmu family? Hearing Duanmu Qingyu's words, Xiao Hua immediately waved his hand and said, "This is your Duanmu family's matter. This Xiao will not interfere. Moreover, my Fortune Gate's disciples are tired. This Xiao Hua still has to bring them back to the West Sea." "Oh right." Xiao Hua reached out and picked up the torch dragon god puppet that had fallen into the valley. He asked, "This Xiao Hua is very interested in this thing. I wonder if your Duanmu family is willing to part with it." "Of course." Duanmu Qingyu didn't even think before saying, "My Duanmu family was saved by Master Shaolei, not to mention a god-demon puppet. Even if Master Xiao wants anything from my Duanmu family will give it to him." "Hehe, many thanks." Xiao Hua put away the torch dragon god puppet and nodded at Duanmu Qingyu and Duanmu Liangsheng. "Farewell, Master Shaolei." Duanmu Qingyu and Duanmu Liangsheng hurriedly bowed to send Xiao Hua off. The group of Duanmu family's disciples also bowed gratefully and shouted in unison, "Farewell, Master Shaolei." Although the setting sun dyed the land red with blood, their grateful voices and thoughts penetrated through the blood-red sky and reached Xiao Hua's ears. Seeing that Xiao Hua had left, the Fortune Gate's disciples who were already in formation immediately flew off after him. In less than a cup of tea's time, only the Duanmu family's disciples were left on the valley. Duanmu Qingyu looked at Xiao Hua and the Fortune Gate's experts' backs for a long time and sighed. If there were no mayflies, the hidden immortal mainland's situation would be clear. Now that the mayflies have appeared, who will rule the world in the future? Duanmu Qingyu's last sentence was actually the last sentence in the four great families' demand for Gaoqin's return. Duanmu Liangsheng's body trembled slightly when he heard it. He understood that the Duanmu family was one of the people who had agreed to surround immortal Emperor Gaoqin at the Longevity Town. However, his gaze swept over the Duanmu family's disciples, and he understood even more clearly that the past was also the past. It was all gone. After flying for half a day, Xiao Hua stopped. The Fortune Gate's disciples behind him also hurriedly lined up and waited. Xiao Hua's expression was complicated as he looked at these Fortune Gate's disciples. An indescribable feeling of regret rose in his heart. He understood in his heart. These Fortune Gate's disciples belonged to the Shenhua continent and had nothing to do with the three mainlands. What world-extinguishing mayflies, what Taoist and Confucian wars to them? They were nothing. However, because of themselves, because of the kindness in their hearts that others could not understand, they were forced to get involved. The soaring Dragon Mountain range was like this, Chamu Cliff was like this, and today's Duanmu family battle was also like this. Although these Fortune Gate's disciples lived on the Shenhua continent, Xiao Hua felt that they had the right to know and the right to choose. After all, this was not a simple battle, but a life-and-death battle. Those who came out from the Shenhua continent did not have the chance to return alive. In the past 10 days of fierce battle, nearly 20% of the Fortune Gate's disciples were killed by the mayflies. This was something Xiao Hua had never encountered before. Thus, Xiao Hua's gaze swept over the injured Fortune Gate's disciples, and he said, "Disciples, you have worked hard. This old man has something to say." Then, Xiao Hua explained the current situation on the hidden immortal mainland, the Fortune Gate situation, and the world-extinguishing mayfly's power in full detail. In the end, he said, This old man is indeed a little selfish. After all, the 3 mainlands and 4 seas have billions of lives. This old man cannot bear to see them go extinct. Therefore, this old man wants to save the world with my own strength. Unfortunately, the 3 mainlands cannot be compared to the previous. That mainland, this old man's strength was too weak. This old man had no choice but to borrow the strength of my Fortune Gate's disciples to bring all of you out from the Kunlun immortal domain. Sect Master. Before Xiaohua could finish, the several hundred disciples in front of him had already shouted. We were Fortune Gate's disciples in life, and Fortune Gate's ghosts in death. Everything we have is given to us by Sect Master. We are willing to follow Sect Master to exterminate the mayflies. We can die without regrets. Xiaohua's eyes were brimming with tears as he looked at these adorable disciples and smiled faintly. In the past, when this old man was alone, it was extremely easy for this old man to say such bold words. But now this old man has the Fortune Gate, and the people I love, so there are many more concerns. Judging others by my own standards, this old man also knows your situation. Today, this old man has made things clear so that you can make a choice. You have your own lives in the Kunlun immortal domain on the Shenhua continent, and you also have your own loves and pursuits. This is your own right. This old man will not force you to sacrifice your lives for this old man's interests. Therefore, when you return to the Shenhua continent, convey this old man's words to the Fortune Gate's disciples, so that they can understand and make a choice. If you are willing to follow this old man and fight for the unrelated human race, dragon race, and demonic beast race, then be prepared. The next time there is a bloody battle, this old man will invite you out of the Shenhua continent to fight. If you are unwilling, then you can do whatever you like. This old man will not force you. Sect Master. The group of disciples still wanted to speak, but Xiaohua smiled faintly. He took out the Kunlun mirror and sent all of them into his space. Life and death matters were easy to talk about, but extremely difficult to do. Moreover, Xiaohua knew that these eager disciples were sincere in their thoughts, but if they returned to the Shenhua continent and thought about it again, and then discussed with their relatives and friends, there might be a different outcome. After accepting these disciples, Xiaohua pondered for a moment, then invited Princess Zixia out. Princess Zixia looked around and hurriedly asked, Xiaohua, what's the situation? The Duanmu family should be crippled. Xiaohua's expression was cautious as he explained the situation. Hearing that Duanmu Tianji had also died, Princess Zixia frowned slightly. She thought for a moment and said, Xiaohua, Duanmu Qingyu is right, you should go down. The 100 Confucian family's foundation is far from what you can imagine. What you saw was only the Duanmu family's superficial casualties, but what about the Duanmu family's private forces? They might not have suffered any losses. Of course, Duanmu Tianji's death really surprised me. Perhaps he was too careless. However, for any Confucian family, the patriarch is a representative, a leader, but the family's strict ancestral laws are enough to ensure the family's normal existence. Xiaohua should go and help Duanmu Qingyu one more time in the future. It will also be beneficial to the Fortune Gate. Princess Zixia didn't blame Xiaohua. Instead, she spoke tirelessly and gently reminded him. Xiaohua smiled and said, It's not that I don't want to go to the Duanmu clan. It's just that the hidden immortal continent is filled with danger. A mere Duanmu clan is nothing in my eyes. Of course, I also admit that I don't know Confucian families as well as you. And I didn't expect that the Duanmu family, which lost so many disciples, might not be damaged. A crafty rabbit has 3 burrows, and the Duanmu family might have other foundations. However, the crisis is beyond my expectations. I am too lazy to think too much about these trivial matters. A monster bug king, surpassing the 9th grade of essence force? Princess Zixia keenly sensed Xiaohua's misgivings and asked considerately. That's right. Xiaohua nodded solemnly. Previously, I and the other exalts felt that since it surpassed the 9th grade of essence force, it had already surpassed the laws of heaven and earth of the 3 continents, and it must be a monster bug king. Even if this monster bug king exists, it is extremely rare. In fact, this rare is also our pessimistic thinking. In my opinion, maybe 1 or 2 would be enough. However, from the situation of the Duanmu family's attack today, this monster bug king might be an ordinary monster bug. In the future, it will be normal to see a monster bug king in a swarm of bugs. According to Xiaohua, a monster bug king seems like even His Majesty, the golden-winged great rock, and the Dipankara archaic Buddha are unable to kill it. Princess Zixia's expression changed and she said in shock, Then wouldn't the 3 continents really have no way to survive? That's right. Xiaohua nodded. As of now, this monster bug king can only be exterminated by this Xiao's pills. This Xiao naturally wouldn't be stingy with these pills, but what if I run out of pills? Then it will only be a hopeless situation. There is no way out to other worlds, and there are no flaws in the immortal formation. The monster bug king, even the exalts of the various sects are no match for it. Princess Zixia's face turned pale, and she groaned. Our 3 continents have really fallen into a hopeless situation. The hopeless situation is already in front of us, but we haven't fallen into it yet. Xiaohua bit his lips lightly, and said, We still have time to think of a solution. From the current situation, for some unknown reason, these mayfly monster bugs haven't attacked us en masse, and instead, they are attacking some blessed lands. His Majesty the Immortal Emperor has already issued an edict, and our human race and monster race have already started to take the initiative to attack. Perhaps we can seize the initiative. What makes this Xiao the happiest is that the mayflies don't seem to be particularly interested in ordinary humans. Unless there are special circumstances, they won't attack ordinary people. Bugs are bugs. Princess Zixia nodded, and said, They only choose to devour true qi that they are interested in. However, it is precisely because of this blindness that ordinary people are also likely to be accidentally injured. Hearing this, Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat, because when he was in the immortal town, the apocalyptic warning had swept across the sky, and the hidden immortal continent, the Western Paradise, the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, and the 4 seas had first received news about the world-destroying mayflies, and many of those news were about ordinary people. However, judging from the recent situation, the number of casualties among ordinary people had decreased again. However, after thinking for a moment, Xiaohua understood that it wasn't that the monster bugs didn't kill ordinary people, but that ordinary people didn't have any means to resist. When the world-destroying mayflies attacked, other than being silently killed, there was no other outcome. It was far less vigorous than when the cultivators resisted the mayflies. Perhaps because of this, Xiaohua and the other cultivators didn't notice. Chapter 47:18. The weak are always at a disadvantage. There's nothing we can do about it. Xiaohua forced a smile. However, he suddenly thought of something and asked, Right, you said that the Duanmu family has 3 boroughs, and this place is only the foundation of their sect. What about the 4 great families? How's the foundation of the 4 great families? How's the foundation of the 4 great families? Princess Zixia smiled bitterly and shook her head. You can only ask Dongfang Qianghao, Shimen Jianzhong, Nangong Tian, and Baiming Cui Qing. Moreover, even Dongfang Qianghao doesn't know about the Shimen family's foundation. As for their sect, the hidden immortal continent naturally has one. My immortal palace also knows about it. However, both His Majesty and the Empress know that it's only a bluff. Their true foundation is definitely not there. Otherwise, in the Longevity Town, His Majesty was surrounded, the golden-winged great rock was surrounded, and the Dipankara archaic Buddha was surrounded. Why didn't they do anything? On one hand, it was Xiaohua's deterrence. On the other hand, it was the threat of Fuyu. More importantly, no one knows where the foundation of the 4 great families is. Although the military school occupied the immortal palace and became righteous, all the forces are on the surface, hanging high above the 100 schools of Confucianism. Although the 100 schools of Confucian cultivators and the 4 great clans are the subjects of the Qing clan, they are also in the dark. The forces of Confucian cultivators are really tangled and complicated. Xiaohua couldn't help but sigh. Fighting with the heavens is endless fun. Fighting with the earth is endless fun. Fighting with humans is even more so. Princess Wuxia said uninterestedly. The human race sometimes prefers to fight with humans. I don't care about Confucianism anymore. Xiaohua waved his hand and said. I'm more concerned about how to save the common people. My sect master, cultivators are also humans. Princess Wuxia said with Xiaohua's tone. If you don't save these cultivators after the cultivators are exterminated, will it be the common people's turn? As long as the cultivators don't die, the common people can be saved. That's true. My princess is still the best. Xiaohua nodded. Anyone who has the mind of a leader would know. Only you. Princess Wuxia rolled her eyes at Xiaohua and curled her lips. In your heart, you only care about the ordinary people who are looked down upon by others, who are like ants. And to be honest, most of them don't even know who you are. You might be a Mahayana cultivator of the Taoist League, and a paragon of the human race, but you're only famous among cultivators. Of the billions of ordinary humans on the hidden immortal continent and the Western paradise, less than 20% have heard of your name. When I was young, my family lived in a small village called Lu Town. That village wasn't big, and there weren't many people in the village. I lived with my grandmother, father, mother, and 2 older brothers. At that time, my greatest wish was to eat a meal of red braised meat. As far as I knew, the furthest place was Lu Town. Not to mention who was the supreme master of the human race. I didn't even know who was the county magistrate of Lu Town. However, this didn't affect my happy life. Therefore, I don't ask the ordinary people of the 3 continents to know who I am. I also don't need them to worship me like the people of Xiao Empire. They have their own lives. As long as they are happy, I am happy. I don't need them to know my name. I hope that I am the son. I am the heir, and let them live without worries. Xiaohua. Princess Wuxia was deeply moved. Only now did she truly understand the man she loved deeply. Only now did she truly understand her own shallowness. Only now did she truly understand the shallowness of the teachings she received in the Immortal Palace. She also truly understood why Xiaohua could become the Namo Great Compassionate Great Guanyin Bodhisattva, and not someone else. Xiaohua shrugged his shoulders confidently and said with a smile, My princess, you don't need to be moved by me. I am just a child of a farmer's family. I only have these superficial pursuits. Princess Wuxia happily hugged Xiaohua's arm and said with a smile, The great Tao is simple. Your superficial pursuit is also the most mysterious happiness in the world. No way, I was just casually talking. Xiaohua said proudly. I can't have such a high level of thinking, right? Of course. How can there not be? Princess Wuxia said with a smile. You are the supreme expert of the human race. Your words. 1,000 people will have 1,000 different interpretations. They will pick out the most noble interpretation. To interpret it. Perhaps what you are thinking is just the most ordinary interpretation. Then it seems that I will have to speak less in the future. Xiaohua replied. You can in the future, but not now. Princess Wuxia said with a smile. You have to tell me about your childhood. But, Xiaohua said with a bitter smile, my memories are already fragmented and incomplete. Why is that? Princess Wuxia's expression changed greatly. She was very puzzled. Xiaohua said with a smile. I still don't know what exactly happened. It seems like my soul was searched by someone. Who is so daring? Princess Wuxia's face turned cold. How can such a great taboo be casually used? Even if Xiaohua is magnanimous and doesn't care about it, I won't let him off. This is Xiaoyu continent's matter. I'm afraid I won't have the chance to take revenge. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, Let's talk about this later. Only Xiaohua is kind-hearted. If it was me, I would definitely tear him into pieces. Princess Wuxia also knew that this matter couldn't be done, so she said fiercely. However, a moment later, Princess Wuxia squeezed Xiaohua's hand and said, Xiaohua, tell me. It'll help you recover your memories. Okay. Xiaohua took out the Kunlun mirror and released the Pegasus flying carriage. He said with a smile, Let's talk as we go. My Xiaohua is the best. Princess Zixia lightly kissed Xiaohua's cheek and happily jumped onto the flying carriage. Don't be impatient, don't be impatient, Xiaohua hurriedly said. My princess, there is still one more thing. What is it? Princess Zixia asked, puzzled. I want to see what kind of strength the innate 5-element flags can deal with. Xiaohua explained. That day at the Jade Pool, Dongfang Qionghao's 5-element flags couldn't deal with a mayfly that surpassed the 9th level of origin energy. But what if it can deal with a mayfly below the 9th level of origin energy? The 4 great clans will definitely be able to rely on it. They might withdraw their forces and not go all out. Of course, the hidden immortal continent might also use the innate 5-element flags to protect the last of the human race. If it can't, then it can't. At least I will know if you have the ability to protect yourself. Princess Zixia covered her mouth and laughed. Xiaohua is too impatient. There are no mayflies here. Moreover, even if I can deal with mayflies, the size and strength of the mayflies are different. Also, I can refine the Xianyuan water control flag, but the patriarchs of the 4 great clans might not be able to refine the 4-element flags. There might not be a conclusion. Hee, that's true. Xiaohua laughed and said, let's talk as we go. Because I saw the godly demon puppet of the godly demon Shuizhe, I felt that I could sweep through the 3 continents with it. But today, seeing that the godly demon puppet can't deal with the mayflies, I thought of the innate 5-element flags. Since that's the case, Princess Zixia suggested, Xiaohua shouldn't place too much hope on the innate 5-element flags. After all, these are only 5 innate Dharma artifacts. It's impossible to protect the 3 continents, and the people you care about the most. It's even more impossible. That's right. Xiaohua sighed and also jumped into the flying carriage. He laughed bitterly and said, I'm like a person who fell into the water. I want to grab every single strand of water plant. I don't want to give up any chance. Actually, Princess Zixia leaned her head on Xiaohua's shoulder and said, there are countless cultivators in the 3 continents. The one who shouldn't panic the most is you. But you are more anxious than any of them. I'm just worried for nothing. Xiaohua moved his shoulder to let Princess Zixia lean on him more comfortably and answered helplessly. Princess Zixia liked Xiaohua's thoughtfulness. She took the initiative to pull Xiaohua's hand from her back and waist and said with a smile, tell me about your childhood stories. Okay. Xiaohua nodded. He released the netherworld origin power and absorbed the wandering souls in the hidden immortal continent into the dark side of the space. At the same time, he found fragments of his scattered memories and told Princess Zixia stories from the distant past. Time always passes quickly, and happiness is always shallow. No one can stop the footsteps of time, and no one can be satisfied with their own happiness. Along the way, with Xiaohua accompanying her, there were laughter, memories, sweetness, and warmth. Princess Zixia didn't want the flying carriage to reach Xiao Empire so quickly. However, there is always an end to the road. One day, Princess Zixia was leaning on Xiaohua's solid shoulder and listening happily. Suddenly, she felt Xiaohua's body move slightly. Princess Zixia was immediately alarmed. She hurriedly stood up and asked, what's wrong? What I'm afraid of has come. Xiaohua's eyes narrowed. His face was as calm as water as he looked ahead and said angrily. However, it was only for a moment. His eyebrows were the same again, and his face became even more strange. He asked curiously, why is she here? What are you talking about? Princess Zixia was puzzled. However, she didn't use her golden pupils. She knew that her cultivation was far inferior to Xiaohua's. Why are you talking about it so randomly? Who do you think she is? Xiaohua replied snappily. Naturally, she is afraid of the mayflies. Princess Zixia said. If the mayflies besiege Xiao Empire, it wouldn't be strange. Along the way, we also encountered many mayflies attacks. However, who is that she you mentioned in the end? What do you think? Xiaohua said and took out the Kunlun mirror. Damn it. Seeing Xiaohua take out the Kunlun mirror, the pure and beautiful Princess Zixia immediately understood something. She scolded angrily. Why is there no end to it? Does she want people to give her face or not? Xiaohua activated the Kunlun mirror, and pulled the Thunderbolt spiritual master out of the space. Seeing that Xiaohua called him out, the Thunderbolt spiritual master's face was filled with unhappiness. He muttered, "Fellow Taoist, don't favor one and discriminate against the other. Taoist witch's strength has already surpassed I. Why don't you pull him out? Why do you make I come out for everything? Your own matters naturally have to be dealt with by yourself." Xiaohua snappily pointed forward and said, "She has already chased you all the way to Xiao Empire. Do you still want I to wipe your ass?" Who dares? The Thunderbolt spiritual master immediately became arrogant. His divine sense rushed towards the distance like a wave. However, when he saw who it was, his imposing manner immediately dissipated. However, a moment later, he coldly snorted again. His figure turned into lightning and rushed into the sky. He shouted, "Fellow Taoist, don't worry. Today, I will give you an answer. I don't believe that I can't shake her off. Damn it." Xiaohua knew that the Thunderbolt spiritual master was inhumane. He hurriedly shouted, "You must not take her life. If I don't kill her, how can she leave?" The Thunderbolt spiritual master coldly replied, "It can't be." Princess Zixia was dumbfounded. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something. After all, the root of this matter was the Thunderbolt spiritual master's immoral character. However, Princess Zixia was afraid of hurting the relationship between Xiaohua and the Thunderbolt spiritual master, so she kept her mouth shut. She then hurriedly shouted, "Darling Xiao, quickly, don't let the Thunderbolt spiritual master take sister's life." The sky above Xiao Empire was also filled with world destruction mayflies. Fortunately, these world destruction mayflies were not as big as the ones that had attacked the Duanmu family. Most of them were less than 10 zhang. And only a few were several hundred zhang, or even several hundred zhang. Even so, the number of world destruction mayflies was too large. The Fortune Gate disciples guarding Xiao Empire were far from enough to block all the world destruction mayflies. These disciples would fly to the east side to kill the world destruction mayflies. And when the sky was clear, they would immediately fly to the west side to defend. It was a chaotic scene. Fu Jiwen was an inner disciple appointed by Xiaohua to guard Xiao Empire. He was supposed to be in charge of dispatching the world destruction mayflies, but now there was no one to deal with the several hundred zhang world destruction mayflies. He could only use the small heaven and earth pagoda to deal with the world destruction mayflies. The several hundred zhang world destruction mayflies had the strength of an 8th grade essence force cultivator, similar to Fu Jiwen. Moreover, the surface of the world destruction mayflies was tough, and Fu Jiwen's heaven and earth pagoda could not break through them. Every time a world destruction mayfly's stinger or hind leg slashed through the void, Fu Jiwen could only dodge or use the heavenly book's runes to block. He was already at a disadvantage. In Fu Jiwen's right hand, there was a variant true chi pellet given to him by Xiaohua. He could kill the several hundred zhang world destruction mayflies at any time, but Fu Jiwen did not dare to do so, because when he saw the swarm of world destruction mayflies, he had a feeling that there were more powerful world destruction mayflies hiding in the void. He could still block the 8th grade essence force world destruction mayflies, but if the 1000 zhang world destruction mayflies appeared, he would lose his medicinal pellet. That would mean that he, the Fortune Gate's disciples, and the Xiao Empire's citizens would all be killed by the world destruction mayflies. Fu Jiwen's thoughts were not wrong, but his hesitation had thrown the battle into chaos. The disorder exhausted the Fortune Gate's disciples. Gradually, the world destruction mayflies broke through the Fortune Gate's disciples' defenses and landed on the ground's matured seeds and soil. Damn it! Fu Jiwen had already seen this and cursed inwardly. Just as he was about to leave the battle, a swoosh sound was heard as the world destruction mayfly's stinger pierced through the void, shattering the talismans around him. Fu Jiwen was alarmed and hurriedly calmed himself down. Puff! The stinger pierced through his sleeve. Fortunately, it did not injure him. Sweat dripped down Fu Jiwen's forehead, but he did not dare to hesitate and teleported again. Just as he left the original spot, a swoosh sound was heard as the world destruction mayfly's hind leg chopped down. Just as Fu Jiwen was stuck between a rock and a hard place, A cold snort sounded from somewhere in the Shao Empire. Then, a four-colored cloud rose into the sky, and a beautiful woman in plain clothes flew into the sky under the protection of another beautiful woman. Although this woman was wearing plain clothes, it was unable to conceal her peerless elegance. Her every movement exuded an indescribable elegance and grace. Looking at this woman's thin lips and sorrowful almond-shaped eyes, wasn't she Princess Qingqing? Then the woman beside Princess Qingqing was naturally Yu Xiajing. Princess Qingqing's figure landed on the ground, and a golden light flickered in her eyes. She looked at Fujiwen for a moment, then called out, "Fujiwen, I'm indebted to you for taking me in these past few days. Today, I'll help you." Then Princess Qingqing shouted, "Fortune Gate's disciples with 7th grade origin energy, listen to my command. Form a long snake formation, and increase the distance between each other as much as possible. Make sure that the world destruction mayflies with 6th grade origin energy and below can pass through, and only block the world destruction mayflies with 7th grade origin energy." Princess Qingqing was clearly using the deafening divine ability of a Confucian cultivator. Her voice reverberated in the air above the Shao Empire, as if she was giving orders to every Fortune Gate's disciple. Unfortunately, Princess Qingqing was still Princess Qingqing. Although she had a noble status, none of the Fortune Gate's disciples obeyed her command. Damn it! Princess Qingqing was slightly angered, and shouted, "Fujiwen, if you don't want the Shao Empire's people to die in the mouths of the world destruction mayflies, then hurry up and follow my command. I know my cultivation is not as good as yours, but I know how to arrange troops. All right." Fujiwen thought for a moment as he dodged the world destruction mayflies. He gritted his teeth and said, "Disciples, listen to Princess Qingqing's command." Yes. Receiving the order, the Fortune Gate's disciples with 7th grade origin energy quickly formed a long snake formation, increasing the distance between them and the world destruction mayflies. This is a good disciple of the Lightning Gate. Princess Qingqing's eyes narrowed into slits as she smiled. She hurriedly ordered, "Disciples with 7th grade origin energy will form the first layer of defense. The rest of the disciples with 6th grade origin energy will form the second layer of defense. 20 li away from the first layer, 2 or 3 people will block the first layer of defense. The second layer of defense will only block the world destruction mayflies with 5th grade origin energy, and will not be affected. Those with 5th grade origin energy will form the third layer of defense, and it will be the same as the first 2 layers." Princess Qingqing explained the formation in a few words, and the Fortune Gate's disciples obeyed. They formed a 5-layered defensive formation, blocking all the world destruction mayflies in the air. What was special was that the entire formation was orderly, and there was no longer any panic like before. Chapter 47:19. What do you think? Princess Qingqing asked Fujiwen with a smile. What could Fujiwen say? However, he was almost out of breath from the mayfly's attack, so how could he have the time to care about her? However, right when Princess Qingqing was feeling complacent, a tail stinger that seemed like a sword that could hold up the sky suddenly shot out from high up in the sky, and it shot towards Princess Qingqing with lightning speed. This stinger easily pierced through the Fortune Gate disciples' 5-layered defensive formation, and landed on top of Princess Qingqing's head. Wherever the tail landed, the space within 1,000 feet was shrouded. The sharp wind tore the void apart, and the power of the spatial fissure mixed with the sharpness of the tail. Princess Qingqing was sucked into a spatial vortex, and layers of spatial fragments drifted towards her like snowflakes. Although the snowflakes were beautiful, they were also fatal. Leaving aside the fact that Princess Qingqing's flesh and blood would inevitably be reduced to dust, even if the stinger struck Princess Qingqing would definitely perish. Your Highness. Yu Xiajing was shocked. She wanted to rush over to save Princess Qingqing, but her cultivation was too shallow. How could she compare to the 9th grade origin energy mayfly? Princess Qingqing did not show any signs of panic. Instead, she raised her head to look at the pitch-black void and the stinger of space fragments. Not only did she not activate her subbodies, she did not even use any of her scholarly cultivator's divine abilities. Her eyes were glazed over as she muttered, "I'm finally going to die. If I die, will that enemy feel sad? Damn it." Fu Jiwen naturally wanted to save the several hundred Zhonglong mayfly, but he did not expect that the mayfly would attack Princess Qingqing instead of him. At this point, even if he wanted to throw out the pill, he would not be able to save Princess Qingqing from certain death. However, at this moment, a thunderous rumble resounded in the sky. It was as if a huge horned dragon had appeared in the sky and struck the void. The void was torn apart by the lightning, and a several hundred Zhonglong mayfly appeared. The lightning was like a miraculous elixir, enlarging the mayfly's body in an instant. The stinger on the mayfly's tail swelled at the same time. Layers of grayish-white mist emerged from the gaps between the rust spots on the mayfly's body, and quickly spread throughout its entire body. After obtaining the power of lightning, Fuyu naturally didn't have the time to care about a tiny ant like Princess Qingqing. Instead, he focused all of his attention on devouring the lightning essence. Rumble. 2 hands of lightning, each over 100 feet in size, flew through the air. One of them struck Fuyu while the other clenched its fist in mid-air. Not only did it shatter the spatial rift, but it also grabbed Princess Qingqing. Seeing such a crude action and the familiar aura of thunder, Princess Qingqing's heart couldn't help but wet. She gritted her teeth and didn't let her tears fall. She even used her hands to hit the lightning hand that was grabbing her body. Unfortunately, the lightning hand was as hard and emotionless as the lightning sage's heart. No matter how hard Princess Qingqing tried, she couldn't shake it. Boom. After several bolts of lightning, the mayfly, which was only at the lower 9th grade of essence energy, exploded from the force of the lightning as expected. Kill. At the same time, high in the sky above the Shao country, countless Fortune Gates disciples rushed out in groups. Since the mayflies dared to attack the Shao country, how could Xiaohua allow them to live? As for Princess Qingqing, the light in front of her flickered, and she was already outside the area where the mayflies were killed. After the lightning hand disappeared, the lightning sage's ashen face appeared in front of her. You. Princess Qingqing only managed to say one word before she couldn't say anything else. The grievances that she had been suppressing turned into hot tears that flowed down her cheeks. Tears might be able to move Xiaohua, but in the lightning sage's eyes, they were merely tears. They were meaningless. He coldly asked, "Why did you come here instead of staying in the immortal palace and being your princess?" You. Princess Qingqing bit her lips until they were bleeding. She only managed to say one word before she didn't know what else to say. However, when she used her sleeve to wipe away the tears on her face, she raised her head and revealed a stubborn and cold face. However, on this cold face, a pair of sorrowful eyes were especially striking. Princess Qingqing's voice was filled with grief and indignation as she screamed at the top of her lungs. "Didn't you see everything during the Jade Lake conference? I have already confessed to the world in front of all the sovereigns. I have already given you my chastity. How can I still have the face to stay in the immortal palace? How can I dare to stay in the immortal palace? After the Jade Lake conference, I lost the title of princess. If it wasn't for Mother secretly letting me go, I'm afraid I wouldn't even be able to come to the Shao country. I would have already been sentenced to death by His Majesty." Chastity? What is chastity? The lightning sage asked indifferently. You. Princess Qingqing only managed to say one word. She was so angry that she couldn't say anything else. How could she say that her chastity had been humiliated in front of a man? She gritted her teeth and continued. Princess Zixia merely lost half of her heart, and was suppressed by His Majesty in the Longevity Town for several hundred years. Now, I've lost the chastity that Confucian cultivators value the most. I've lost the face of the immortal palace. If I don't escape, the only thing left for me is death. If you want to die, so be it. What does it have to do with I? The lightning sage's expression remained unchanged. Princess Qingqing's heart instantly turned cold. She really didn't understand. With such a beautiful appearance, she had to lower herself to beg this person. Although she didn't say it out loud, but did he not understand? Could it be that he was so heartless? I do want to die. Princess Qingqing gritted her teeth and said, but even if I die, I want to die in front of you. I want to tell you that I'm dying for you. I want you to feel uneasy for the rest of your life. I want you to never forget me for the rest of your life. Hee, impossible. The lightning sage laughed coldly and said, What's so good about you? How can I not forget you? You. Princess Qingqing had never met such a heartless man in her life. She was truly speechless. It was as if the word warmth didn't exist in this man's words at all. Leiting. Princess Qingqing finally abandoned her strong shell and begged a man for the first time in her life. When this concubine left Jade Lake, Imperial Mother secretly told this concubine to be gentle to men, to be true to men, to be docile to men. But I've always wanted to be strong. I've never known the word gentle. I know I'm not good, but apart from you, no one else wants me. I don't have a home. I don't have any relatives. If you don't want me, then I can only die. Lightning, I'm begging you. Scram. The lightning sage rolled his eyes and slapped Princess Qingqing's face. This slap didn't just cause Princess Qingqing's face to swell. It even sent her body tumbling in the air. Your Highness. Yu Xiaojing cried out in pain from afar. She wanted to fly over. Stop. Although Princess Qingqing couldn't stand properly, she still coldly called out. This is a private matter between me and Lightning. You don't have to interfere. But Yu Xiaojing anxiously said. But this lightning sage has a heart of stone. Your Highness. You'll die in his hands. Haha, die. At this point, do you think I'm afraid of death? I'm more than happy to die in Lightning's hands. Princess Qingqing laughed and flew over. She looked at the Thunderclap immortal with tender eyes and said gently, Thunderclap, I never thought that I would love a man so deeply. I also never thought that I would fall in love with a Taoist cultivator. But when this love came, only then did I know. Scram. Before Princess Qingqing could finish, the lightning sage waved his hand and sent her flying. However, Princess Qingqing still climbed up and struggled to fly in front of the lightning sage. She still said, I knew I'm a woman. I need a man to protect me. I was heartless and cold-blooded because I didn't understand love. I'm afraid of the feeling of being loved. I'm also afraid of being given to the 4 great families as a gift by His Majesty. Scram. The Thunderbolt Immortal was somewhat impatient. This time he actually lifted his foot and kicked Princess Qingqing several hundred feet away. He continued to say, I've never seen a woman as cheap as you. I don't want you anymore, and you're still pestering me. If you come over again, don't blame me for being ruthless. Blood was dripping from the corner of Princess Qingqing's mouth, but she still forced a smile and flew over. Your Highness. Yu Xiaojing knelt in the air and cried. Don't lower yourself like this. He'll really kill you. Lightning, I know you don't love me, and I know you don't like me. She definitely won't let me appear in the fortune gate. Princess Qingqing was full of smiles. Her beautiful face was flushed with blood, and it was incomparably beautiful. But the world is so big, and there's no place for this concubine anymore. If you don't like this concubine, and think that this concubine is like a mosquito disturbing you, then do it. Dying in your hands is 1,000 times better than dying on His Majesty's immortal beheading stage. I beg you do it. I don't want to live in this heartless world anymore. The Thunderbolt Immortal sneered. He grabbed Princess Qingqing's slender neck with one hand as if he was grabbing a chick. He said, Do you think I don't dare to do it? Even if you are a princess, if I kill you, Old Man Gaochen won't even dare to fart. Princess Qingqing felt like she couldn't breathe. Her vision darkened and she saw stars. She knew that the lightning sage really wanted to kill her. However, when she saw the Thunderbolt Immortal's sinister smile, Princess Qingqing actually felt relaxed. Strangely, she didn't feel any hatred. Her face was flushed and blood was flowing. Her bloodshot eyes were still rippling with happiness. It was as if being able to be with the Thunderbolt Immortal at the last moment of her life was also a happy thing. In the distant sky, Princess Zixia was anxious. Previously, when the lightning sage knocked Princess Qingqing down several times, she still had a cold smile on her face. She knew that this was Princess Qingqing's trick. However, in the end, when she heard Princess Qingqing's words and saw how Princess Qingqing was unafraid of death, and how the lightning reverend was about to kill her, she suddenly understood that she might have been wrong about Princess Qingqing. In this world, if there was only one force that could change people, that would be love. Princess Qingqing's feelings for the lightning sage might really be true love. Darling Xiao, hurry. Princess Wuxia couldn't help but shout. Big sister is going to die. Don't worry. Although Xiaohua's heart was burning with anxiety, he could clearly feel that the Thunderbolt Immortal's emotions were fluctuating and changing like a stormy sea. If nothing unexpected happened, the Thunderbolt Immortal had also reached the crucial moment of his human nature. What do you mean don't be anxious? Hurry. Princess Wuxia made a prompt decision and roared. Stop the lightning sage immediately. Xiaohua had never seen Princess Wuxia so angry. He didn't dare to be negligent, and was about to send a message to the lightning sage in his mind. It was also at this moment that something strange happened. The blood at the corner of Princess Qingqing's mouth slowly dripped onto the lightning sage's wrist. The lightning sage was stunned. His hand stopped, and then he dipped a finger into the blood and put it in his mouth. After a moment he frowned and said, Why is your blood so salty? Oh, why are you crying? Why is my heart so chaotic when I see you cry? Why does my heart feel like it's being twisted by a knife? Princess Qingqing naturally couldn't speak. She struggled a few times and opened her mouth to cry a few times. The Thunderbolt Immortal loosened his grip. Cough, cough, cough. Princess Qingqing collapsed in the air and coughed with all her might. She raised her head and cried out, Thunderbolt, why didn't you kill me? If I kill you, my heart will ache. I won't kill you. The lightning sage actually replied woodenly. You. Princess Qingqing couldn't say another word. Tears of happiness gushed out of her eyes. This man named Lei Ting didn't say the word love, but his words were much more expressive than the word love. Lightning. Princess Qingqing whispered. I know you're the same as me. I'm infatuated with power, and you're infatuated with cultivation. Otherwise, you definitely wouldn't have cultivated to the Grand Ascension stage in the hidden immortal continent. So you and I don't understand love. Actually, your heartache means you love me. The lightning sage raised his hand again. It looked like he was going to slap her, but he withdrew his hand halfway. It seemed like he would also feel heartache if he did this. The lightning sage was at a loss. He turned his head and looked at Xiaohua for help. Boom. A 5-colored rainbow bridge appeared in the distance. Xiaohua held Princess Wuxia's hand and stepped on the rainbow bridge with a smile on his face. Congratulations, fellow lightning sage. Congratulations, fellow lightning sage. Xiaohua flew closer and raised his hand with a smile. You finally know what love is. The lightning sage shook his head slightly, seemingly embarrassed. He replied, Fellow Taoist, you're making fun of me. I don't seem to understand. It doesn't matter. With Princess Qingqing by your side, you'll understand sooner or later. Xiaohua replied with a smile. As for Princess Wuxia, she looked at Princess Qingqing with a complicated expression. She stared into Princess Qingqing's eyes, and Princess Qingqing walked over without backing down. Qingqing. After a while, Princess Wuxia said, I don't know if what you said just now is true. I also don't know if this is all part of His Majesty and Imperial Mother's plan. I only want to say that Xiaohua and the Fortune Gate don't have any ambition to dominate the world. I'm here. I beg you to let the Fortune Gate go. This kind of self-injury trick is really meaningless. Although Princess Wuxia said beg, her tone was very unyielding. How could it sound like she was begging? Princess Qingqing's tone softened when she saw this. She replied, Xin, I've been fighting with you since we were young. If you like something, even if I don't like it, I'll take it. I'd rather throw it away and destroy it than let you have it. To be honest, I don't regret everything that happened before. I also don't want to apologize to you. However, today, at this moment, I can tell you that I'm sincere. I truly love lightning. I beg you, can you give me a way out? Let me and lightning have some space, some chance? Princess Wuxia was very helpless. From a woman's intuition, she could feel that Princess Qingqing's words came from the bottom of her heart. There were no lies. However, from her many years of fighting with Princess Qingqing, Princess Zixia very rationally told herself that Princess Qingqing was definitely not a gentle woman. How could she easily lower her head? She looked helplessly at Xiaohua, then looked at the lightning Taoist whose face was as solemn as a mountain. Her heart was extremely conflicted. However, after a while, Princess Zixia said, "Since you've said so, Xiaohua and I will respect lightning Taoist's choice. At the same time, we also want to see the true love in your heart. However, little sister has to say the ugly words first. If you have any other plans or ideas, I absolutely won't allow it. The fortune gate is the Tao Sect's fortune gate. It is the fortune gate of Xiaohua, lightning Taoist, and all of the fortune gate's fortune gate. The fortune gate will not allow Confucian cultivators to meddle with it, nor will it allow any conspiracy to exist. It's just a fortune gate. I really don't care about it." Princess Qingqing replied without backing down. "If lightning Taoist wasn't here, I wouldn't even bother to set foot here. Moreover, you can rest assured that I only want to stay by lightning Taoist's side. Even if you want me to interfere with the fortune gate's matters, I won't care." "I hope everything you've said is true," Princess Zixia warned meaningfully. "Otherwise, when the time comes, you will definitely regret it." "Don't worry, Princess Zixia. I've already done many things that I regret. At this point, I absolutely won't regret it," Princess Qingqing said as she quietly flew closer to the lightning Taoist. The lightning Taoist impatiently said, "Don't come so close, I'm not used to it." Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support that you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.